Good morning, and welcome to the San Joaquin County Board of Supervisors meeting for Tuesday, March 11th. The time is not set correctly, so we're at 9 o'clock in the morning. We will now have a moment of silent reflection, or silent prayer, please. Thank you very much. Supervisor Ding, will you read us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Can we please take roll?
Thank you, Chair. Supervisor Gardia,
Present.
Supervisor Dhaliwal,
Present.
Supervisor Ding. Here. Supervisor Rickman,
Here.
Chairman Canepa.
Happily here. As a Michael Tubbs-ism. He used to say that all the time. So
That's usually who I quote.
you might want to raise your chair there. You're liberating. Thank you. So, oh my goodness. The banter, excuse us. Okay, perfect. At this time, we'll have recognitions and presentations.
Thank you, Chairman. Our first recognition this morning is the proclamation of March 18th, 2025 as Public Defense Day in San Joaquin County. And I would like to invite Judy Ann Velado, Public Defender, and the Public Defenders team to the podium while we read this proclamation, which states, whereas the states ratified the Sixth Amendment of the United States Constitution in 1791 as part of the United States Bill of Rights. And whereas the Sixth Amendment guarantees those accused of crimes the right to a speedy and public trial, an impartial jury to be informed of the accusations they face, to confront witnesses, and to have the assistance of defense counsel. And whereas the county established the public defender as a county department in 1961. And whereas on March 18, 1863, the United States Supreme Court held in Gideon versus Wainwright, 372 U.S. 335, the 6th and 14th Amendments of the U.S. Constitution guarantee the right to assistance of counsel in state courts to criminal defendants who cannot afford to hire counsel, noting, quote, the right of one charged with crime to counsel may not be deemed fundamental and essential to fair trials in some countries, but it is in ours. And whereas San Joaquin County Public Defender's Office serves the diverse needs of our community and its justice system by furnishing its clients with competent, effective, loyal, ethical, zealous, compassionate, and efficient advocacy. And whereas the Public Defender's Office preserves the civil liberties of all who call San Joaquin County home by protecting constitutional rights. Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Supervisors does hereby proclaim March 18th, 2025 as Public Defense Day in San Joaquin County and commends our public attorneys who continue to fill the constitutional promise of the Bill of Rights, presented this 11th day of March 2025. Chair Canepa.
Thank you. I always talk about giving people a voice, and you guys do that. And I mean, as we celebrate our 175th anniversary, it's the folks like you guys that take the caring and compassionate side to defend people sometimes that you always don't agree with. And that is an amazing job. Obviously, the DA gets to prosecute crime and, you know what I mean, go after all the people. And you guys help represent the people that don't have a voice, can't afford a voice. And I think it's important that we celebrate you guys and the job and the work that you do, because I know it's not easy and it's very challenging. So on this day of one day of the year that we celebrate you, we need to celebrate every day, obviously, and we do, because the thing that you do for folks in our community and help them when they're at their lowest and the most difficult times of their life. So I want to thank you guys personally, and if you have words to say, and thank you guys for coming.
Thank you, Chairman. Just very briefly, I wanted to thank you and thank the members of the board for your support of our office over the years. It has been a pleasure to lead this team of hardworking individuals who care deeply about the clients and to promoting the values of the department and continuing to represent those without a voice. Thank you all, and thank you, board.
Thank you. Supervisor Rickman.
Thank you, Supervisor Canepa. Thank you all for being here. And I look forward to this, every year. And, we do talk a lot about the district attorney's office and us being tough on crime, which we are. However, one of the most important thing that we have in this country is what we're talking about today, and what your team does. The due process, the speedy and public trial, impartial jury, to make sure everybody, if they are accused of a crime, has that constitutional protection that you don't see in a lot of other countries. And we do take this, I think, our Constitution and these rights that we have for granted. And I mean, even now, you listen to the news or reading the newspaper and seeing what's going on with other countries, people being, taken in the middle of the night, thrown in jail without, right to counsel, or right to trial, or speedy trial, or due process. And it's absolutely horrible. So I want to say thank you to you and your whole entire team for what you do for the residents of San Joaquin County, the citizens of San Joaquin County, and in upholding, the rights of the Constitution to those, may be accused of crime. So keep up the great work, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Supervisor Ding.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The last thing you want when you take away somebody's freedom is second-guess yourself at the end of the night thing. And I'll say it again, when this board selected you for the position, I thought of it as, if it was a friend or a relative of mine who was injured, who would I not want to be the public defender? But if it was me, who would I want? And that was you. And we have every faith in you and your team, and I thank you for your service.
Vice Chair Dollywell.
Thank you, sir. I want to thank you and your team for what you do. It's a blessing that we live in the largest democracy in the world, and your role is extremely, extremely important. And thank you for everything. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Gardia.
I want to thank you and your team for what you guys do for our community. I think people forget that, we sometimes, we live in America and we're innocent until proven guilty. So I commend you on the representation that you give our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Perfect. You guys, photo time?
Thank you.
They won't defend me.
Thank you, Chairman. Next, we have the proclamation of March 2025 as American Red Cross Month in San Joaquin County. And I would like to invite Felicia Woolfolk, Chief Executive Office, Heart of the Valley Chapter, Kristen Merrill, Account Manager for Board of Supervisors, Lisbeth Garcia, Account Manager, Carrie Morris, District Manager, and Jonathan Bowling, Recruitment Associate, as we read this proclamation, which states, whereas March is American Red Cross Month, a special time to recognize the compassion of San Joaquin residents and reaffirm our commitment to care for one another in times of crisis. And whereas American Red Cross Month acknowledges those who assist locally in San Joaquin County, working tirelessly to help in times of disaster, when someone needs life-saving blood or the comfort of a helping hand, providing round-the-clock support to members of the military, veterans, and their families, and teach life-saving classes in CPR, aquatic safety, and first aid. And whereas our community depends upon the American Red Cross, which relies on donations of time, money, and blood to fulfill its humanitarian mission to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies. And whereas during Red Cross of America Month, we celebrate the commitment of the American Red Cross to improve the lives of individuals and families in times of need, and encourage all citizens to consider donating blood, volunteering, or supporting the efforts of this important organization. Now therefore be it resolved, the San Joaquin County Board of Supervisors does hereby proclaim March 2025 as American Red Cross Month in San Joaquin County and encourages all citizens to support this organization and its notable humanitarian mission. Presented this 11th day of March 2025. Chair Canepa?
Thank you. You guys are the unsung heroes. You know, we always have emergencies, and when what hits the fan, we always look to somebody, and who's there? The American Red Cross. We're also doing a blood drive today for Katie Albertson's leading it, and she's trying to guilt me to give blood this morning before we come out here. I said, I'm already anxious enough having to do my board meeting, right? And she's trying to get me to give blood. So it's a challenge for all the county employees. Thank you, Katie, for leading that today, the blood drive. So if you can, because blood is life, right? Isn't that what we say? Blood is life. Absolutely. So I think it's important that we celebrate our partners in our community, and you guys are one of those partners that we always lean on, out of sight, out of mind, until we need you, and then everyone complains that we're not fast enough or we're not learning enough. And I, as the chair, we're the head of the Office of Emergency Services, so I've learned a lot of essential services, and you guys are part of that. So if you could share some of your background, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, members of the board. It is an honor and a privilege to be here this morning for March is Red Cross Month, and we just want to thank the board for all of their support of our blood drives. You are our amazing partners, and we like to have a special thank you or a shout out for Katie and Rachel for their continued support in this collaboration and this partnership. We really appreciate it because it takes a village and rolling up your sleeves and saving lives. So we just want to encourage each and every one of you to roll up those sleeves, Chairman, and give blood. I also wanted to share some statistics, as I think that's important so you can see where your blood is going. Last year, you did your first blood drive, right, in June of 2024, and you collected 51 units, which is absolutely astonishing. Kudos to all of you. Your second blood drive was in October, and you raised 30 units of blood. That's amazing. That's a total of 81 units with a potential of 243 live saves. So everybody rolling up their sleeves, it matters. So thank you for your support, and thank you all for allowing us to be here today. And our staff behind me, they make it happen behind the scenes, and we could not do what we do without them and all of the support of the community here in Stockton. So thank you very much.
Perfect. And it's set up downstairs, correct? Fourth floor? And the time for giving blood today? 9 to 3. So fourth floor, 9 to 3. For anybody that can give blood, it is a gift of life. So we'll start on the side. Supervisor Gardia.
I am signed up and not scared to give blood, so just a shout out to these other guys that are a little bit scared.
A little shaming there, a little shaming. I like it.
I got plenty. So my over 22 years of being part of the Stockton Fire Department, we worked hand in hand with you guys. You guys show up at 2 a.m. when it's raining outside, when a family's lost everything that they own, and you provide vouchers so they have a place to stay that night. You give food vouchers and vouchers to replace some of the clothes that they may have lost in a fire. So I firsthand have seen the professionalism and the empathy that you give our community at the worst time. But thank you for what you do and your team.
Vice Chair Dollywell.
Thank you, sir. I want to thank you for your efforts to save lives. When in an emergency, not only every second matters, every drop matters. We visited San Joaquin General Hospital, and the things that we've seen, especially the rapid infusion, is amazing that the technology is there, and we know that when the help is needed, it's there. Thank you so much. Please continue the great work.
Thank you, sir.
God bless you.
Supervisor Ding.
I'll take you down there.
You'll hold my hand up. Thank you. That's very thoughtful.
Either that, I'll let you continue talking. They can take me downstairs, and I should be back before you're finished. Thank you. And what was it, 97 were the floods? And I think I said this last year. And we were sitting up at Sugar Cut when it broke, and it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. It was pouring rain. We're just freezing to death. And we're leaning up against the wheel of the Red Cross truck eating chili, and it was the best dang chili I've ever had in my life. You guys are important. It's important to reiterate to everybody. Everybody wants to help when there's a disaster, and they start packing up their old jeans and underwear and sending them in, and it creates a lot of work. You know where your money's going with the Red Cross. If you want help, just write them a check. It's the best way to do things. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Supervisor Rickman.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, and thank you for being here, and thank you for you and your team, what you do for not just the residents of San Joaquin County or even the state of California, but the country as a whole. Like Supervisor Kadia, instead of being a firefighter, I was in law enforcement, so I have seen firsthand the effectiveness of the Red Cross, be it, up north during the fires or the floods here a few years ago when South County got hit pretty hard, and Chief Bradley's sitting there so he could speak on that also, or up north when Supervisor Ding's district got flooded, Red Cross was there, to provide, shelter to those who were evacuated, clothing, food. So you guys are essential for our disaster preparedness. So thank you all for, the lives that you touch. God bless you guys.
Thank you.
Perfect. If you want to take a photo. Come on.
My photo out.
Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. Next, we have the proclamation of March 12th, 2025 as Procurement Professionals Day in San Joaquin County. And I would like to invite Concepcion Gayotin, Interim Purchasing Director, and the purchasing team to the podium as we read this next recognition, which states, whereas the public procurement profession plays a significant role in the efficiency and effectiveness of both government and business. And whereas in addition to the purchase of goods and services, procurement professionals add value to the organization by performing such functions as executing, implementing, and administering contracts, developing strategic procurement strategies, and cultivating working relationships with suppliers and other departments within the organization. And whereas public procurement professionals operate under many different titles, including contract officer, procurement specialist, purchasing agent, etc., this proclamation is intended to include all titles with all-encompassing term, procurement professionals. And whereas public procurement professionals that are members of the National Procurement Institute and other public and private organizations have tremendous influence on the economic conditions in the United States, with a cumulative purchasing power running into the billions of dollars. And whereas public procurement professionals ensure fairness and transparency in the competitive process for the business community. And whereas the National Procurement Institute leads excellence in public procurement and works to raise awareness of the vital role of procurement professionals among government officials, the public, and business leaders. Now therefore be it resolved, the San Joaquin County Board of Supervisors does hereby proclaim March 12, 2025 as Procurement Professionals Day in San Joaquin County and urge all members of the National Procurement Institute to join in recognizing the role of the procurement professionals within business, industry, and government. Presented this 11th day of March 2025. Chair Canepa.
Perfect. This is the best part of the job, is celebrating employees. And you guys, I mean, we have 8,000 employees, and when all 8,000 employees want stuff and need stuff, guess what? We need people to overlook it. As we see in our national government, we have a lot of eyes on what's being spent and how we're spending it, and it's important that we are good stewards of taxpayers' money. So I think that's the most important part of what we do as a county, and obviously to make it run and all the things that we do as a board and the 8,000 employees, like I said, is important, and you guys play a vital role, and I appreciate you guys. So you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board, and CAO Regalo. Concepcion Gallatin, Interim Director of Purchasing and Support Services. So supporting the vital work of San Joaquin County departments is a dedicated team of procurement professionals committed to excellence in public service. First and foremost, they ensure compliance with federal, state, and local regulations, safeguarding the integrity and accountability of the procurement process. They manage a high volume of procurement activities with efficiency and precision, ensuring departments receive the resources they need in a timely manner so that the departments can directly work with the communities and provide those services. They foster collaboration with both departments and suppliers, identifying innovative solutions and cost-effective options to best serve the community. Their work is essential to the seamless operation of county services, and I appreciate the opportunity to recognize each one who are present here today.
I'm Cecilia Silva, and I am responsible for ISD's purchases.
Hello, my name is Maya Rodriguez, and I support Public Works along with Raquel Covarrubias.
Hi, good morning. I'm Julia Padilla, Deputy Purchasing Agent, and I support San Joaquin General Hospital.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Pacheco, and I'm the buyer for Behavioral Health Services.
Hi, Alex Souza. I'm the Administrative Assistant for the department and the CalCard Program Administrator.
Good morning. My name is Christy Peterson, and I'm the buyer for CDD, DCSS, E2D2, and HR. Thank you.
Good morning, Board, CEO. My name is Aaron Tolentino. I also support San Joaquin General Hospital.
Good morning. My name is Tina Echevarri, and I am the fiscal person for the Purchasing and Support Services Division, and I am also CalCard Program Administrator.
Good morning. My name is Harpreet Kaur, and I help Human Services Agency, and I love what I do, and I'm thankful for this opportunity. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Brianna Tejada. I'm a purchasing assistant. I help assist majority of the departments here in this building, including the airport.
Good morning, Kimberly Linzer. It's my pleasure to service and provide purchasing services to the District Attorney's Office and the Public Defender. And I also support Morelia Ruiz, who is not here today, that proudly supports the Sheriff and the Probation Department. Thank you.
I'm Kimberly Grundy. I'm here to support Board of Directors, Board of Supervisors, and Clerk of the Board. I'm also assisting with the hospital. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lourdes Piohodin, and I used to support GSD, but I've moved over to the ERP team to support our move over to Workday.
Hi, I'm Joshua Soriano. I'm a temporary office assistant. I mainly assist on the call cards, and I'm just happy to be here. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ephraim Kadaying, Interim Deputy Director.
Thank you for allowing me to do that. I just wanted to recognize each one of them because the volume of work that they handle, each one, is tremendous. And so we can't really operate without all of them here. Thank you.
That's awesome. It's nice to put a name to a face and know who's helping us, because sometimes we lose that in an organization. So Supervisor Rickman, comment?
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you all for being here so we can, celebrate the work that you do and let folks in TV land, know exactly what great employees that we have. And listening to the different titles, and you can see that procurement affects the whole entire organization. Every department here has to go through procurement, right? And, as our chairman mentioned, transparency, as we see in the federal government, and no, it has been, but transparency is huge. I think it's huge to this board, huge to the organization. You guys do a great job at it, and we see it on our board agendas and so on, and also making sure we're complying with state law when the competitive bid process, competitive processes and stuff for goods and services. So keep up the great work, and again, we're lucky to have great employees like you guys.
Thank you.
And God
Supervisor
bless.
Ding.
Thank you. Thank you for your service. We are supposed to be the guardians of the taxpayers' money. So it's nice to know that somebody is going through bills and receipts. There's an item coming up a little bit later today, and you see things like this, and you're happy that there's other eyes on it. It's like for a mortuary, how did we spend $800,000 on furniture? So that gives you, well, I shouldn't say that. It says F, F, and E, so I'll have some questions later. But you guys are going through all of this so that when I bark, I can walk away and say, never mind. I understand. So thank you for your service.
Thank you for your support.
Vice Chair Dollywall.
Thank you so much for everything you guys do. It won't be possible for all of us to do our jobs without your efforts to make sure that everyone has what they need. So thank you. Please continue the good work you guys are doing.
Supervisor Gardia.
The great thing is that, sit up here and see the smiles of employees of San Joaquin County. And I commend you on your team and what a great job that you guys are doing for our county and our community. Thank you.
And thank you for your support.
Thank you, Chairman. Next is our recognition of the North Stockton Mercy Peddlers for their 2 years of serving the unsheltered. I'd like to invite Rita Steele and the North Stockton Mercy Peddlers to the podium as we read this recognition, which states, "This recognition is presented to Mercy Peddlers in recognition of your outstanding dedication and tireless service to the unsheltered community. We honor the North Stockton Mercy Peddlers for their 2 years of unwavering commitment. Starting with a vision from a group of friends, your work has expanded to provide essential services and donated clothing and blankets to those in need. Serving an average of 45 to 60 lunches 3 days a week, your team has delivered over 12,000 meals to grateful Stockton citizens. With the support of volunteers, your efforts continue to serve multiple areas, including Hammer to Pacific, El Dorado South, Swain to Pacific, and March to Feather River. The kindness you offer, along with your mission to bring hope and compassion, makes a lasting impact on our community. Your work embodies the spirit of Mercy Peddlers, demonstrating love, care, and community for those who need it most. Thank you for your dedication and for making such a difference. The San Joaquin County Board of Supervisors extends its congratulations for this achievement, presented this 11th day of March 2025. Chair Canepa?
Perfect. I wanted to bring this forward because Mercy Peddlers actually started in Sacramento and started another offshoot, and then these guys invited me last year to go on a ride along. And it's amazing because often the homelessness is pretty much faceless. And the way that we treat it is, to turn a blind eye and make them not look as human beings and individuals. And these guys do it. They go out and treat people with dignity and respect. And I know a lot of people frown on it, but I mean, we need to give hands up. And I think that's what you do. And I think we need to put more eyes on that because they are human beings. And the things that you do and the relationships that you build with these folks is, I think, what makes our community such a great place to live. So I will let you speak about how it started and the outreach that you guys do. It's a pretty cool thing. There's a one in downtown Stockton. They actually pedal. You guys are usually in cars and go along a couple corridors and do the amazing work. And I mean, groups do it all over Stockton and all over the county, and I think we need to celebrate it a little bit more. So, Rita, you have the floor.
All right. Thank you for this special recognition. We have a dedicated group of volunteers in North Stockton, about 15 of us now that are go in 3-person teams. Our dream is that all the unsheltered in Stockton will be housed and will be out of a job. It's not an easy transformation. The possibility begins when the unsheltered citizens sense that somebody cares. So in North Stockton, we go out 3 days a week, and it's nothing fancy. When we started out, it was half a sandwich and muffin and fruit. We always take fruit. Now we do give a full lunch, and we take hygiene items, and we've got donated clothing, and we find nothing but very appreciative and polite reception every single time. We have had, in 2 years' time, that's what it's been. So we're glad to do it, but hoping that things will begin to get better for our unsheltered.
Perfect, thank you. Supervisor Gardia.
You know, when we live in our little worlds, you know, we go to work in the morning, you know, much of our community goes to work in the morning, we get off work, and, you know, we turn on the news, or we drive by our different unsheltered camps and things like that. You wonder what's going on out in the world and who's out there helping. And I'm very, very blessed to learn that our community is doing a lot. In the 2 months, I've learned the different organizations that are out helping our community and making a difference. And I appreciate everything you do, and congratulations on being recognized today.
Thank you. Vice Chair Dollywall.
Thank you, sir. I want to extend my thanks and gratitude for the work you do. It's going to take all of us to address this issue with our unsheltered Americans, and your efforts are a critical part of this joint venture. Thank you so much.
Supervisor Dean.
Good morning and welcome. I just want to thank you for your love and compassion.
Supervisor Rickman.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning. Thank you for being here, and, you know, thank you for your dedication to, you know, the residents here in Stockton, and bringing hope and compassion to those individuals also. You know, God bless you guys.
Okay, moving on to public comment. Now is the time for public comment on matters within the jurisdiction of the Board of Supervisors that are not listed on the agendas and minutes, consent calendar, and closed session items. We request that you fill out a comment form if you address the board in person. There's a time limit of 3 minutes for these comments. There is a device on the podium with a green, yellow, and red light. The yellow light will come on 30 seconds before the end of the 3 minutes. With regard to public comment, the law strictly limits the ability of the board members to discuss matters not on the agenda, so this is not an appropriate time to have a discussion with the board regarding your comments. We ask that you refrain from personal attacks during your comments, and that you address all comments to the Board of Supervisors, not to the audience. Comments from the public may not reflect the view of the Board of Supervisors. Our first speaker is Vanessa Barberis, and on deck is Molly Watkins, please. Morning.
Good morning, Chair Canepa and Supervisors, County Administrator, and County Council. My name is Vanessa Barberis, and I'm here today from WM Central Valley Waste. As a part of the county's efforts to comply with SB 1383, starting next week, we're going to have a third-party contractor begin delivering new recycling and organics carts to residents that are in the areas A, B, and E of the county. The process is going to take about 2 weeks with service for these new containers beginning on March 31st. So at that point, all current WM customers within the county will have weekly recycling, trash, and organics collection. Residents have received mailers informing them of this, but I'm going to make sure to send those over to you in case you have any questions come up from your constituents. Additionally, I'd like to invite you all, your supervisors and the county residents, that we have our annual e-waste and household hazardous waste recycling event. It's co-hosted by WOM and the county in a partnership, and the event will take place on April 5th at our Turner Road transfer station from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So it's a great event to get rid of any like used paint, batteries, old electronics, that sort of thing. So that's all. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for coming forward. That's valuable information, and I think we need to share that. Everyone's always so upset about illegal dumping and not knowing when to go and when to get discard things. So I thank you for what you're doing. Thank you. I have the board police up here with me, so.
Do you want to call the person on deck?
Yes, thank you. So Carla Huney is next. Thank you.
Okay. Molly Watkins. Good morning, gentlemen. Everybody else up there. You're right on the mark. You sent your little letter to Washington, D.C. regarding elections, and Congressman Pete Sessions from Texas has drafted a bill called Make Elections Secure Act. And so in his little bill, that's only like 9 pages long, or 8 pages, the first thing is he wants hand-marked and paper ballots to be counted. He wants voter ID and citizenship requirement. He wants to limit the election to 3 days. We'd like it 1 day, but 3 days is better than 2 months. And number 4 is he wants to very, very small amount of mail-in ballots. So military people or people who are really in a medical situation where they can't physically show up. And then the 5th thing that he has in his bill is paper poll books. So we need to go back to that because when you have electronics, you have issues. And very small precincts so that we can count them in 2 hours and be done and have the results by midnight. So thank you. You're spot on. This bill hopefully will move through and then we'll solve a lot of our problems. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good day.
Carla Huney's up, and then I'm going to massacre this name, Glenelle Bowen. Please, I hope I did that correctly. You're on deck.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the board and the rest. I'm Carla Huney. I'm a citizen of the San Joaquin County. So the board had a discussion regarding state mandated programs, which I'm just going to keep on harping on, that are not state funded. With money getting tighter and tighter at the federal, state, city, and county levels, it's more important that we push back on these programs and ask for help. They're not paying a penny to help on the elections. The 2 programs that come to mind in the elections are the drop boxes and also the vote by mail. In a discussion with one of the CAO's employees, the most expensive thing that the ROV has is printing. So on vote by mail, they have to do the voter guide, they have to do the sample ballot, they have to do the vote by mail, they have to do the envelopes, they have to do all of that, and they are all solely responsible for that. And that doesn't include the postcards that have to come out if they need adjudication or any curing. I mean, so it's a massive amount. So Why do we need vote by mail? That was put in place for COVID, along with the drop boxes. I don't think we're in COVID anymore. I don't know if the governor knows that, but we're not. So those programs, because the drop boxes, you look at how much time is spent by the ROV's office to go and pick that up, whether they're doing all boxes 5 days a week or half, like they did during the general election, then putting them in the transport boxes, putting the seals on them, getting them here, then they have to, because they have to be sealed and passed on at each level, so everything is copacetic. So when you look at this program, and if you compare the cost of if you did it one day voting in person and you counted in the precinct like we used to, it's a huge difference. And I think that's where we need to be. So I'm going to recommend the EAC committee, the election advisory committee meets this week, and so I'm going to be suggesting that they make a recommendation. Somehow we do that and send it upwards. It just, even though things are in the work, we need to still push at this level because it's coming out of our pockets and your pockets. So thank you.
Thank you. Glenell and Stephen Trout is on deck, please.
Hi, my name is Glenell Bowen. You did pretty good with my name. I want to read to you a Reorganized State of California Ordinance 2401. It says the state of California is in a state of insurrection against the United States Constitution. The people of California are suffering from a tyrannical state government which fails to provide a Republican form of governance, enables and supports across its southern border the invasion of the United States of America by illegal foreign nationals, and protects vicious criminals who commit outrageous acts of violence upon the citizens of California, all caused by a government of and for a monoparty system led by a tyrannical dictator who openly defies federal law. California's monoparty political machine, its socialist governor, along with communist state legislators, socialist elected officials, agencies, and unelected regional governance boards are colluding to create a communist California state in direct violation of both Article 4, Section 4 and Article 4, Section 3 of the United States Constitution. The state of California is moving at breakneck speed toward the ultimate communist state. The California 1850 Compact Constitution was legislatively replaced in 1879 by a progressive constitution after over 155 years of hard work to destroy all vestiges of the United States Constitution by using the 1879 Constitution and through court decisions over 920 amendments to the California Constitution. Massive taxes, strangulating regulations, regionalism, deliberate destruction of the United States' premier education and economic systems, along with the raping of one of the planet's finest environmental zones. The stage is now set. It's now being set for the final nails in California's totalitarian coffin. Since the mid-1990s, California has been a monoparty system. Over the years, the noose around the state's Republican form of government has been tightened with bogus constitutional amendments that include redistricting congressional and state seats and resorting to a political party killing amendment Proposition 14 that allows up to 2 top vote-getting candidates from the state's primaries to move on to the general election regardless of party affiliation. Worse yet, since the passage of the 2010 Proposition 14, criminal cartels have taken control of the porous southern border of California and have established operations to traffic human slaves and to distribute massive amounts of fentanyl that kills thousands of Americans each year. The operation run by their cartel network works in conjunction with government-financed non-governmental agencies and have taken control of California's political machine. In 2020, the California Attorney General's office proposed an amendment to the California State Constitution to replace the bicameral Assembly and Senate with a unicameral, nonpartisan legislature and to increase the number of members serving in the legislature that was considered for the November ballot. If the unicameral, nonpartisan legislature proposition had passed, the loss of a representative form of government and the formation of a totalitarian state government would have been completed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephen Trout.
Hello. Can continuing on with the ordinance from the reorganized state of California. Whereas California has a porous border with sections of inadequate fencing on the southern border, as well as access from the Pacific Ocean onto miles of unguarded beaches, it is known that thousands of identified foreign nationals, referred to as gotaways, enter the state monthly, violating federal immigration laws. And whereas the porous border of California allows untold numbers of the illegal foreign nationals to enter California, trafficking humans for labor and sex trade with no plan to remedy to secure the border and violating Federal Law 22. Whereas the porous border of California allows untold numbers of the illegal foreign nationals to enter California, trafficking dangerous, life-threatening drugs, including fentanyl, which is killing citizens with no plan to remedy to secure the border. And whereas the true purpose of all government is to promote the welfare and provide for the protection and security of the governed, and when any form of organization of government proves inadequate for or subversive of this purpose, it is the duty of the people to alter or abolish it. Whereas the Constitution's first three words, "We the people," affirm that the government of the United States exists by the consent of the people to serve its citizens. The government of California, the current socialist governor and mono-party system, along with local officials, are following a coordinated design with the intent to actively engage in acts of insurrection against the United States Constitution. And whereas the existing state of California government, thus called, has not only abused the powers nominally entrusted to it, but with the connivance and active aid of the executive has usurped and exercised other powers to the manifest injury of the people, which, if permitted, will inevitably subject them to despotism and tyranny. Be it resolved, acting on behalf of all citizens of California, the reorganized state of California will establish a restored California government. The reorganized California government will consist of an executive branch, judicial branch, and bicameral legislative branch of government. Be it further resolved, the reorganized state of California shall honor the Constitution of the United States of America as the supreme law of the land, and shall honor Articles 4, 5, and 6. That embody the concepts of federalism, describe the rights and responsibilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak? Please come forward and state your name.
Bring you paper. Yeah, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen. Hi, I'm Lauren Cardinale. I haven't been here in a while, and I just wanted to speak to you a little bit about the results that are coming out of your after action report and improvement plan through HHS. It's very detrimental, and it's kind of concerning how our health department isn't resolving to you what's really going on with the follow-out of the countermeasure. So there has been indicated that 19,025 deaths have taken place in the VAERS system. That means that healthy people who took an injectable countermeasure for a disease known as COVID-19 are now dead. In addition, the quantity of data that's been reviewed is only 25%, with 3% being improved. So if you had a stroke, or you had heart trouble, or you had problems with your brain, or you're having different metabolic issues, only 3% are being compensated. I don't know how to remedy this situation. I've tried for 4 years to work with every aspect of the government to do this locally. We need to stop the immediate further loss of life. You have many tools at your discretion that you can do so that people don't get given a medical product that will harm them. Specifically, I'm out of time because my children are on deck to get these to go to school. 11 counties have heard the voices of Dr. Ryan Cole and Peter McCulloch about the nature of these harmful injections. Whether you do an emergency work stoppage, whether you do a moratorium, whether you do a resolution like was done in Washington, we have to recognize the elephant in the room. We trusted the science. We didn't trust in God. We trusted in men and women to be good, moral people, and that's not what happened. It's estimated that over 1 million people are dead instantaneously from taking these injectables. Every day I drive by and I look and think that I have to give it to my daughter so that she can go to school. I know a 26-year-old that just died from a very good family in Lodi. His heart just stopped. The people who did this are pardoned. They're pardoned. Why did they need to be pardoned if they weren't guilty? I pray every day that we can have a miracle here with you 5 gentlemen and you 2 new people who have never seen it. I've spoken for a long time about this. You 5 men can protect the people of San Joaquin County from this evil, pernicious, and malicious global countermeasure that was used without data, that was used without that, and was used with malignant heart, and it was all done for profit. And I hope that somehow you guys figure out that stoppage or the moratorium so that the children don't get injured, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak? Please come forward, state your name.
Good morning. Chairman Canepa, Board of Supervisors. My name is Melanie Knott, and I'm a concerned citizen of San Joaquin County. I wish to again extend my thanks and gratitude for standing in the gap for we the people of San Joaquin County and voting unanimously to approve the Election Advisory Committee's recommendations to send letters to the President of the United States and the Governor of the State of California regarding voter registration and identification requirements for federal and state elections. As I said before, this is a good first step toward restoring fair, honest, and transparent elections in San Joaquin County and the nation. While the election season has ended and we're actually in what we call kind of a off season, shall I say. The issue of election integrity still remains. It is too important to be placed on a back burner and must be kept before this board's attention as well as our counties and the nation's. In Proverbs 14:34, it says, righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. And a quote, nothing is ever too out of reach for God that God cannot revive it. Yet in order to turn our nation to God, we, his people, will need to make a collective effort to return to him first. And that's a quote by Dr. Tony Evans. I'm done with that, but I also wanted to make mention, I happened to notice when I came in, it's been a while since I've been here, that in God we trust. It looks very nice, and I believe it was Supervisor Rickman who bought that before the board, and I just wanted to make mention of that. Thank you for making that proposal, and looks beautiful. So God bless you all, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience that would like to give public comment? Okay. Moving right along, we'll move on to consent. Are there any board members? We'll
Chair
start.
Canepa, if I may, we do have minutes on the agenda today.
Okay. So,
Make a
I'm
motion.
sorry, I missed that.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
So the motion and the second is for approval of December 3rd, February 11th, February 25th, and March 4th, correct? So we have a first and a second. Can we call for the vote?
Question two.
Yes, sir.
Michelle, I will be here December.
If I understand correctly, you can still vote on past minutes even though you weren't here, provided that you received them, which they were emailed to you, reviewed them, and have no concerns if that's correct, County Council.
Or he can also abstain if he feels that the need to not, okay. All right. A motion passes 5-0. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. At this time, we will now go to consent and see what the board members would like to pull. We'll start with Supervisor Rickman. You're good?
Number 5?
Supervisor Dane, number 5. Any others?
No.
Oh,
No.
Vice Chair Dollywell.
I was going, number 5, but Steve already.
Double up on 5.
Double up on.
216 and 19.
2, 16, and 19. And then County Council, was there something that you wanted to add? Or we're good to start?
Yeah, with respect to item number 2, which is an urgency ordinance, a couple things I wanted to mention. The first is in accordance with Government Code 25131, this urgency ordinance, the title was referenced in our agenda. A copy of the full ordinance was posted online with the agenda. And then finally, we have full copies available for the public at the speaker's table. The second thing I wanted to mention is there's an amendment that is needed for it to be consistent. The urgency ordinance is designed to put a moratorium on smoke shops, but we've tried to carve out other types of businesses where the problem doesn't seem to be emanating, and those specifically have to do with gas stations, liquor stores, and grocery stores, which sometimes sell cigarettes. And in accordance with that, it's necessary to amend the urgency ordinance so that in section 4, where it says 4,000 square feet, that would be changed to 10,000 square feet. The design of that is to exempt from the moratorium grocery stores, and in looking at what the typical size of a grocery store is, 10,000 feet seem to be a better limitation as opposed to 4,000 square feet. So that last sentence with the amendment would read, let me go to the beginning here. Well, let me just read the entirety of Section B as amended, as I would propose it be amended. No business license shall be approved or issued by the county for the establishment of tobacco, retail, /smoke shop businesses. In order to effectuate this moratorium, so long as it is in effect, an application for a new business license shall include the question of whether the business will be one that sells, offers for sale, or offers to exchange for any form of consideration tobacco, tobacco products, tobacco paraphernalia, and hemp products, and if so, whether the business will occupy in excess of 10,000 square feet of a facility or will be a gas station selling gasoline or diesel fuel, comma, or is a liquor store in possession of a valid liquor license, period. So that last part is what constitutes the proposed amendment to the urgency ordinance.
Perfect, thank you. Supervisor Gardia, you have questions on this, and then we'll go back to questions if the board has them towards what you just said, so thank you.
So my question is, the moratorium, after we vote on it, do we have like a timeline to sit with changing our permit process to make sure that we safeguard ourselves from future approved smoke shops?
Yeah, through the chair, what is contemplated is we'll have this moratorium, which is in effect for only 45 days, but the board is able to extend it as necessary for an additional 10 months and 15 days, which if you do the math is basically a year. The combination of 45 in that period would be a year. And then if it wished to, it could even extend it for an additional year beyond that. During whatever period of time the moratorium is in effect, and I anticipate we'll extend it at least once, we're going to come up with amendments to the county's Title IX and Title VII for the purpose of trying to put appropriate regulatory provisions applicable to smoke shops where it has been found that there are some problems in terms of them selling products that they ought not to be selling, selling to underage people, things of that sort. So I don't know if that answers your question, but what we're doing is we're buying time so as to put in appropriate regulations applicable to smoke shops.
All right, and my second question would be, make sure that we include signage as part of that moratorium.
I'll reach out to you and try to get an idea of the type of regulation you're thinking ought to be appropriate, and we can include that in any proposal.
Thank you.
Yep.
Supervisor Rickman, you have the floor. You're good? Okay. Public comment? Oh, Supervisor Ding, sorry.
Thank you. Well, I'm probably going to be at odds here, but I think we're missing the mark. And it isn't about the establishment of these shops. It's what we're trying to get out is the illegal distribution of products that aren't supposed to be for sale. And what you're trying to do is limit it by saying if you operate something under 10,000 square feet, and if you do this and you do this, at the end of the day, you have nobody in charge of code enforcement here. We've heard it from, you've got code enforcement mostly under community development, who's inspecting buildings. I mean, her plate is full. We heard it 2 weeks ago. You've got the sheriff's department that isn't part of that. I mean, there is, I think we gave them for abandoned vehicles or something before, but I think you're trying to come up with this whole new permit process for businesses, and you're missing the mark. It's kind of like the cultural services or cultural activities. These food vendors that are standing on the corner, it's part of the state mandate that you can't discriminate against cultural food services. They're not permitted, they're not licensed, we don't go after them with code enforcement. You got gals selling flowers on the street corners. It's part of the sex trade and human exploitation going on, but there's nobody that can enforce it because of state regulations. So while I appreciate, yes, we want to make sure they're not selling illegal products out of existing stores, and nobody wants to see any more dang neon smoke shop signs all over the place, even though most of them are in the city and not in the county. But I think we're missing the mark on what we're truly after here is those existing businesses that are breaking the law, and we really haven't found, you've got all of our departments are, up to here with tasks, and, you got probation dealing with homeless along with the other 25,000 things he's doing. You've got the sheriff's department buried. You got community development just added 3 employees because they're buried. We're missing the mark on enforcement and going after what we truly have a problem with, and that's selling to underage individuals, existing smoke shops selling things they shouldn't be selling, and we haven't even went after that yet. So at this point, I don't see what this does except for add another layer of paperwork for businesses to fill out.
I think, just to that, I think part of that is that was the problem, is that we don't know whose jurisdiction it falls under. And I think that's what they kind of did at the city, is they have licensing every year so that you have the ability to revoke a license if they're being bad operators. Right now, in our tool belt, if County Council, if I'm right, we don't have the tools to stop these businesses, correct?
Well, a couple things. One, what is before the board here today is simply a moratorium.
Right, but I mean the outcomes.
Yeah, let me.
Okay, sorry.
So that's the only thing in consideration today. But the purpose of it is to come up with a business license applicable to smoke shops, and that would require. It wouldn't be a particularly burdensome new license, but it would be a new license that the smoke shops would have to get. That's what the recommendation of the task force was. And what I've looked at is what Stockton has done. They seem to have an approach which it seems to be well thought out, and it would require that smoke shops obtain a new license, which is yearly reviewed, and it could be taken away, and if it were taken away, they could not operate legally. and it can be taken away if there are violations found, and it has to be renewed yearly. So it's up to the board whether it wishes to impose that new regulation or not. I mean, that's something that would be considered coming down the line. The reason it's being proposed is because that's what the recommendation of the task force was, to come up to have that. The other benefit of that would be we'd have consistency between the county and the city of Stockton, where a great number of smoke shops are. And the thought behind that is you want to have consistency so that the businesses don't just go to whichever location is less strict. You want to have if you can, consistency in terms of what compliance requirements are applicable to that business. So that'll be something the board takes up later down the line, and we're certainly open to feedback from everybody, and including the board, as to what you like to see, because it's going to be the board's decision as to whether or not it approves this new license requirement or not.
Okay, perfect. So it's a work in progress. Obviously, going forward, we're setting the moratorium, which will last 45 days, which we will address in 45 days, whether to continue it. At the meantime, we're looking into the ordinances and how we can best fix it. At this time, is there any other board comment? I'll go to the public comment and then come back, or if you go ahead, Supervisor Garcia.
So my belief is the moratorium buys us time, and I'm honestly disappointed that a moratorium wasn't already set in place. Just an example, on Country Club, there's 3 smoke shops within 1 mile, two of them within 200 feet. And with the task force, a couple things that we identified that throughout the permit process, there's no safeguards. Example is there's no safeguard in the permits if we were to have an adult store go next to a school or a church. So what this does, it buys us time to actually look at other things that may affect our community that we can maybe get ahead of in a permit process or whatever. As a group, we come together and come up with some resolutions that's going to safeguard our community. So it has affected county pockets, and on Country Club, there's 2 already established smoke shops, and one, I believe, is in possibly, I'm not sure if they're in the permit process or they're getting ready to go in the permit process, all within 1 mile. So it buys us time.
Perfect. County Council, did you have a comment, or you were looking like you had to?
Just that's one of the things that is being looked at. That is, I've heard the sentiment that some members of the board would like not a requirement that smoke shops not be within close proximity to sensitive areas such as schools. I've also heard the sentiment by some board members that they would like not to have an excessive number of smoke shops located close together. One of the things I like about Stockton's ordinance is it addresses those issues amongst many other things. So that's one of the reasons why that seems to be a promising example of what the board might wish to adopt. So that's something that'll be taken into consideration when we bring an ordinance back. Like I said, I welcome any feedback from everybody, including the board, as to what they'd like to see or not see. I mean, I'm not the one driving this. I'm just trying to carry out what the task force said to do.
Thank you. I'll open it up to public comment. Was there anyone in the public or staff that would like to speak to this?
Good morning, Lieutenant Nick Terrill, Sheriff's Office, to the board through the chair. Yeah, the moratorium is what we need. Is the Band-Aid to stop it right now. Ultimately, though, Supervisor Ding, I think you hit the nail on the head. We're going to end up creating an ordinance for this one issue and have teeth for this one issue. And in 2 years, there's going to be another issue that we don't see coming, and we're going to have to go through this whole process again. So what we need to deal with is how we do things in general in business in San Joaquin County. And if you look at the title for the revocation of business licenses, you need a conviction related to the business and then a hearing before the Board of Supervisors. And that does not provide for an expedient way to deal with these problems. So that's what the Sheriff's Office is pushing for. And I think that's what Supervisor Ding is talking about, is some way to mitigate problems that we don't have a specific ordinance for. Our policy is very restrictive right now. We need to be able to expand that.
That was one of the concerns that I had, is the cleanup language and how we move it going forward, so we don't have to do this all the time, like you're saying, and like Supervisor Ding is saying. So thank you for your comment. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else that would like to speak or questions? Do you guys have questions? Anybody else like to speak? Okay, I'll bring it back to the board. Questions, concerns?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Supervisor, I understand. And we do need a pause. I wanted to make sure, though, that we aren't missing the overall target. I just want to make sure that this board is comfortable that this isn't going to be the last thing that we do. We're going to go back and we're going to address exactly, the root of the problem. And with that, I will support the motion.
Supervisor Gardia? Yeah, did you want to speak again? We're good. Okay, at this time, Supervisor Rickman suggested we pull this and vote separately on this. Is that necessary, or?
Yes, if the Supervisor Rickman would like to vote separately on it, we can certainly do that. I would request that somebody make a motion to amend the ordinance, the urgency ordinance.
Thank you, Chairman. The reason I asked to pull separately, I think it'll just be cleaner and
Okay,
easier.
no, that's why I was.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to approve as amended.
Okay, so we're gonna pull this item off of the consent and vote separately, so we have a first and a second on the floor. Call for the vote. Thank you, motion passes 5-0. We will move on to Supervisor Ding and consent item number 5, which is approve an increase in appropriations for the morgue medical examiner's office facility replacement project in the amount of $4.75 million and the use of fund balance. Supervisor Ding, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Mr. Director. And it's only fair to say that when this whole process started, you weren't here.
Thank you.
Okay. What's that saying? 1 million here and 1 million there, and pretty soon you're talking about real money. 4.7 million, and I understand this isn't the construction costs, and we will be sitting down and discussing that too, because, well, I had some other concerns there. But when I start seeing numbers, what'd you do with my? And I'm glad we have the procurement individuals here, because this is where, I mean, they just absolutely become invaluable. I mean, I'm looking at furniture and equipment, $800,000. The one I'm really upset about, though, and I want to know who missed the mark. Was it us or was it the contractor that missed? Maybe we might need a power for the morgue, and oops, that'll be an extra $500,000. Was that something that the contractor missed? Was it, gee, just a slight oversight? I mean, we're talking some big money here. And these are all soft costs, right?
Yes, the costs are the soft costs. Yes, those construction costs for the contractor who bid on the project. At this point, he's still within his contract. There have been change orders that have come about based on changes in the project that were unforeseen. And those, part of that, of the contingency that's being put there, those potentially, because they have been approved change orders to continue moving the project forward, would be payments on top of the original contract to the contractor. The items related to the utilities for PG&E, those came at the request of PG&E after the contract was awarded. And so kind of at the discretion of PG&E how they want to run their lines into the Sheriff's Office campus, the French Camp campus, to get to the morgue complex. So those costs are strictly really driven by PG&E. We need power from them, and we really can't tell, power or gas from them, and we really can't tell them, no, we don't agree with your recommendation of how you're getting those lines into the campus. The other increases in soft costs, many of them are related to the furnishings for the morgue. Those are all related to the staff, for the staff's break room, patient waiting room, family rooms, wellness room, the open offices, the cubicles for the investigators, and the offices for the medical examiner, et cetera. We do use public procurement for that. We do have a contract with DERS that usually handles most of the furnishings for county-related employee office spaces. So those, I believe, are, competitively bid out or fall under some of the Sourcewell contracts, et cetera. So we do use them through those contracts ongoing for all new construction, similar to the DA's office.
Just a follow-up question on our furniture supplier of new furniture, and I'm not suggesting I want this to look like I won't even go there. But for instance, in the federal government, when we moved into a congressional office, you had GSA, and they have warehouses and warehouses of furniture and so forth. And we've been slowly moving offices around here, shutting offices down. Do we have surplus? I don't even know if we do. Do we have surplus furniture and desks and all of that, or not?
County surplus, my understanding, is handled by the purchasing department. There are items, I couldn't speak directly to those, but for the most part, the morgue is currently, medical examiner is currently leaving a very old building. And so we're looking to open a state-of-the-art facility. And normally when we open a brand new building, state-of-the-art facilities, we try to put all new equipment in there because staff's currently doing work in the old medical examiner's office, and they still need those fixtures and furnishings, and it makes it a little difficult when you're trying to open up a new facility and start operations on day one if you have to then try to build in lead time to reallocate old furnishings that may or may not be compatible with the existing sites that we're moving into.
I was just wondering if there were, not to be disrespectful, but I think most of the clients that are going to the morgue aren't going to care if it's an old chair or a new chair. But I'm just wondering if that is something we do take a look at, is what we have in inventory. We're talking $800,000. We get upset. We talk about, especially Paul, if it's a $13 wrench, he goes, through the roof. We're talking about some real money here. I was just wondering if there is a process in place where we actually look at, what's in storage right now. We all have heard the stories about the school districts right before budget time. They take all their new stuff, they put it in the warehouse because they have to buy new stuff to exhaust their budget, and so they just start spending money. I'm not saying the county operates the same way. I'm just wondering, just an honest question, what do we do with our surplus stuff? Do we sell it, give it away?
We do have county departments that we are currently looking for lease locations with, and some of them do look at using older furniture that may be available through county purchasing or in storage somewhere. An example of that is Public Defender. We're currently looking for some space, and they're looking to use any leftover furniture that may exist in locations. This project started, and usually the scopes of new projects, new facilities, when we sit down with our customers, we try to identify what are their needs for this facility. And while I wasn't here in the initial designing phases, I would believe that they sat down and they found out what they needed. And at that point in time, the determination was made that new furnishings were probably going to be the best for the location, if you want to speak to that. Thanks.
Good morning, Chairman, Supervisors, County Council, Madam CEO, Genevieve Valentine, in the hat of Interim Healthcare Services Director. In terms of the furniture and equipment piece, this is beyond just cubicle spaces and where we put our phone lines. The morgue itself, as was mentioned, will be state-of-the-art. Just one autopsy table, in order to meet our needs, is $50,000. So when we are looking at equipment and we're looking at furnishing, we have to also keep in mind there is very expansive service costs and equipment costs to actually have a state-of-the-art morgue. In addition to that, we have to have specimen storage locations that are temperature controlled, that are multiple thousands and thousands of dollars, because we maintain those specimens so that our sheriff's department, our DA can actually look at cold cases and so forth. Just the embalming station flush capacity is over $10,000 each station. So the $800,000, yes, may have desks, it may have chairs and so forth. There's a whole autopsy suite within the new building, and that equipment is incredibly expensive.
And you mentioned, and of course, as most of you know, I'm still a little upset how this thing was put out to bid in the first place. That questionnaire was absolutely, have you ever built a morgue before? Well, if you're a local developer, obviously you haven't, because we have one. So there's no difference between, you talk about the refrigeration, yes, very familiar with it. We call it a restaurant or a morgue or what have you. It's required. We're on contract with, what's it called, Dirk? Is there a reason at this price we're not, we don't put things out for bid like this? Okay. Question answered. We're gonna get into this a little more with some other things that we've been noticing on some of these purchases that should be going out to bid, and I'm not just picking on you here, whether we're talking about ribbon cuttings or some of the stuff that I'm just wondering, at what point do we go out to bid? Hello, welcome back.
Hi there. So the mark of $35,000 for goods is when we go out to bid. However, we do have the ability to use cooperatives, which Durst is one that we've been using, so that the furniture, the cubicles, all of that, all of what we're using in the offices are consistent.
Consistent, but how do we control, how do we know we're getting a good deal?
So to use a cooperative means that Durst itself, Hayworth Furniture, underwent formal solicitation in another agency or through a cooperative. And that's how we have, we utilize that cooperative. So now, instead of going out to bid, taking, a month, 3 to 6 months to actually get the goods in, or get even a contractor to say, hey, you know what, we're the ones that are furnishing your offices, we actually can take care of providing the resources within a month.
And do our local businesses get a 5% advantage or whatever? And you just said Hayward, and my back kind of goes up a little bit. Are we allowing our local furniture suppliers, designers, an opportunity here? That's where I get concerned, is if we have somebody we're continuously doing business with and they're not even from the area, we're not really doing much to support local business here in the community.
So the whole idea is that, in a way, it may not be supporting local businesses only because the cooperative is done on a national level. So that if the pricing of Durst comes out to be the lowest all the time, and they're getting awarded the contract all the time, that is what the county is utilizing. So we are getting the lowest price that we can for the best quality furniture. And
Also,
that's
the vendor
through the use of the cooperative.
and the vendor that does the installation has to be certified for that equipment so that the warranties can be maintained. And so Durst is a certified installer of the Hayward or Hawthorne equipment. So if there was local vendors who did installation, they would have to be certified on that equipment so that they could potentially partake in that process.
Thank you.
Supervisor Rickman.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning. Is this budgeted at all? When this came, in March of 2024, back to the board the last time we saw this? So this
It was
4.7, is that, did we budget for that in our, no. So where's this money coming from, and can we eat it or not? And what effect does that have on our budget? And we're gonna be doing the budget process here in 3 months. So is it better to wait until we have we come up on actual this New Year's budget?
Through the chair. So it wasn't budgeted, but they do have it in the capital outlay fund balance, and that's what they will be taking it. That's where they will be taking it from. So it's the unprogrammed fund balance in the capital outlay fund.
So what does that look like after we take 4.7 million out of it?
I believe, if this is correct, you'll have about 30.4 million as a balance.
So we push it over to, when's our budget come, June or the July?
Yes, it would be At the end of June.
End of June. And if we push it back to June, would that make any difference?
Well, nope. No, I wouldn't say in this case, because it is coming from the capital outlay fund balance. The only difference would be, and I don't know the timing of all this, of whether you need to increase it right now. That might make a difference, but the only difference would be is they would take it, right now it's a 4/5 vote to increase their appropriations and to use that from the capital outlay fund balance. And if it comes at budget, they would put it in their budget.
But does that affect taking the 4.7 million out of the capital outlay? Does that affect our future plans per se? I mean, because we're spending 4.7, I mean, did we have that earmarked for anything, or did we have our eyes set on something that we have to pull back on because of this?
So for this, it's unprogrammed.
Okay,
And so they do, utilize that when they have to come up, if they're short on projects. I would ask them to use the capital outlay fund balance before they come to the board and request anything from the general fund.
Right. And my last question, or close to last question, is, and if you look from October 24, 2023, is when the prices were, I guess, when the board first saw them, and to March 11, 2024, even, Supervisor Dean talked about furniture. How does it go up from, it's pretty much 550,000 in a 1-year time frame? I mean, you know the diagram of your building, you know what the architectural plans are, you know what, I assume what kind of furniture you need. So how does it go up $550,000 in a year time?
Honestly, I can only speculate because I was not here at the time.
All right, I know,
The
but
original items
unfortunately
were
you're here.
brought forward.
No.
So, I mean, while the construction cost index has increased over the last 2 years about 12%, that doesn't equate for all of the increase. But most likely there were items not included in the original proposal that should have been. I think it was about $1.2 million was in the first budget of total soft cost for everything. At that point, there was only $250,000 of FF&E included. So my belief is we did not include all the appropriate amount of cubicle spaces, other furnishings that needed to be in that as we move forward and finalize the design.
Well, even like you look at stuff like plan checking and permit fees went from 150,000 to 425,000. So that's us charging ourselves in pretty much.
Yes, we do charge ourselves, but we are paying for services just like an outside entity.
But again, in a year time, how can I mean, as an individual, and can you imagine if our bills went up, twofold in a year's time? We wouldn't be able to make it. So how does it, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen to this extreme in a personal level or family level or individual level, why does it happen in government? I guess that's my question. I mean, again, permit and planning fees, we should know what these fees are. So how the heck does it go from
if a change happens,
175,000 increase in a year time?
So a couple things that happened as far as changes that had to have permits go back for review was the fire marshal for French Camp McKinley required additional fire life-saving devices in the building. So after his first review, he didn't include them. On his second review, he came back and said, hey, I need this additional information. If plans then have to be updated and changed, those need to go back for review. That was one example. Another change that happened was they wanted the amount of space available in the bioretention basin to increase. So once that was determined, and those plans then get reviewed, get changed, and then have to go back for,
All right, I understand that. It just seems, if we're doing it to ourselves, what are we, and this is my next question, a very concerning question, and I hope, the answer is different. If we're doing this to ourselves, then what are we doing to businesses? Does businesses are they going through the same thing that we're going through right now? If that's the case, you wonder why people are leaving. The state, I should say, not.
I can't speak to CDD's process.
I mean,
in their fees, because I'm sure their fees are covering the cost of their staff doing their work.
You know,
and that's why
I
we're
won't
paying.
spend much more time on this. This is very concerning. I mean, again, we're talking about 1 year time. Oh, actually, not even a year, 10, 11, 12, 6 months time, a half a year, and the prices are like this. Lastly, the PG&E side. CA, you have something? Oh, all right.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say, I believe the first contract came October 24th of '23, so it's been
Right,
about a
and
year
then
and a half.
another one I have through March 11, 2024. That's when the two different prices are, at least what I have. Regardless, the PG&E side of it went from 200,000 to 738,000, so a price a price difference of $538,892. And you were talking about running lines and so on. You know, the reason I bring this up is, again, this is a 6 months time, $538,000 increase. I was on the phone last night with a city official in my district, and you know, he wasn't happy because one of his big businesses is moving out. I forget how many, 30, 47 employees to a different state, although, you know, they're going to keep the business in that city. And he was complaining about PG&E, the prices in California, running businesses out of this state, and, you know, pretty much asking us, hey, what are you guys going to do? I said, hey, you know, we've led the county, the 58 counties in fighting PG&E. We did press conferences. We've done letters to the governor. We did letters to the legislators. And just seeing this, you know, type of increase on this, you imagine what they're doing on, you know, these other businesses that are employing residents in San Joaquin County. So, again, PG&E is out of control. I know I had a letter in that was sent that another price or fee increase may be coming, and it's out of control. And it's time for our legislators in Sacramento, in the state, to take action to, you know, stop the bleeding of our businesses and especially our families. That we've all seen our PG&E bill every single month. It's just absolutely out of control, and it's killing the economy of this state. So the reason I'm stating this now is that hopefully somebody's watching, and somebody in Sacramento gets a backbone and, you know, puts a bill up and curb some of these costs. But with that being said, I agree with Supervisor Ding. We know we need to start taking a harder look at these fees. I mean, we need to start letting this board know what the possibility of, you know, you come with the cost of $10 million. Next time we see it, it's double, triple the cost. You know, you can't run a household like that. How are you going to run a government like that? Again, being good stewards of our tax dollars. So, I mean, I don't know if you can say, like you said, a warning shot, that we are going to be looking at this, and we have been looking at it, but there's going to be a lot more questions and concerns, and mostly when this budget process coming up here in end of June. So again, thank you both for being here, and thank you for stepping up here today too.
Supervisor Rickman, I just want to make one correction. The spreadsheet you're looking at, I made a typo in the second column. It should have been 3/11 of 2025.
Okay.
That was my fault.
All right, so a year and 6 months. All right, thank you.
So I just have one point of clarification. We do the JOC, all the people that are on that, right? So those are folks that are already qualified to do services with the county. That's one of them, right? And then we piggyback. So on those piggyback bids, I mean, that's we're using other people's buying leverage to our benefit, right? And I don't think that was shared. So those are renewed yearly, correct? So we do the JOC, sometimes they go over.
Yearly.
It's
Yeah,
yearly
JOC is
too.
yearly.
So those are the things so that we don't slow up things, and that the cost of materials and labor and everything go up and escalate. And that gives us the time to expeditiously get things done, correct?
Right, and then we also have CUPCA, right, for maintenance projects. And the local vendors and all vendors are noticed every year to join our CUPCA contractors list. So then when the departments select based on the thresholds, anybody from the list, then most that are showing up are really local vendors.
Okay, so there is kind of
services.
layers of checks and balances, so
Yeah,
that
we do.
it's not a free-for-all and
No,
willy-nilly
no,
every,
no.
so I was trying to get there. Sorry to interrupt, but Sunny has Vice Chair Dollywall has a question.
Thank you,
sir.
that's what we check, yes.
So, Mr. Director, the exact date is 3/11/25, not 24, right?
Yeah, 3/11/2025.
So 17 months. So 10/24/23, we reached, how did we reach these numbers that we need 200,000 for PG&E, not 738,000? Actually, it's almost 739,000.
Those, again, I was not here at that point in time, so those were the numbers that were created by the capital projects team on their best estimates on or around October 24th. It had been leading up, I think 10/24 was the board date that they brought the item to the board. So leading up to that, those were their best estimates of what they believed those costs would be for the soft costs, including the connections for PG&E.
So somebody made a mistake calculating these numbers?
No, I'm not saying they made a mistake. Costs increased when they finally got the actual information from PG&E to say, here's what it's going to take for us to connect gas and water lines at that point in time. Then those costs increased to what we now believe are 738,000.
Thank you. Through the chair, Deputy County Administrator Josh Bronco. Just a little bit of context as Mr. Wirtz was saying. So the staff used the sheriff's facility numbers to come up with the cost estimate. What we didn't anticipate at the time, and Mr. Wirtz indicated this previously, that PG&E was going to actually transmit the energy in a different manner. They were going to require a different connection. And so creating that new connection is what increased the cost. So I wouldn't say the estimate was wrong necessarily. It was, we could not have known at the time that number was produced that PG&E would require this new connection to be built.
Okay, let's go to plan check. What's the size of this facility? What was the size in October 23? How many square feet?
I don't have that information with me at the moment. I'd have to get that.
Did we increase it or is it still the same?
It's still the same.
So in 17 months, it took us to figure out that we don't need 150,000, we need 425,000 for plan check and other fees. And these are our numbers.
These are, my understanding, these are what we have paid in towards plan check fees, not just for CDD, but for everything, City of Stockton, French Camp, et cetera, what we paid in based on code review and plan checks, yes.
I think, Director Jolly, you want to speak on this?
Good morning. Jennifer Jolly, Director of Community Development. I think it's important to understand exactly when we're talking about plan check fees, what that means. I confirmed with my staff yesterday that we've collected $24,000 in plan check fees for this project. Our fees have not gone up. We only collect fees that cover staff time. So a lot of that information that's going into the plan check discussion is not contained in community development. So French Camp McKinley Fire District actually does their own plan check. So we do not have control over anything that they're actually requiring or anything that requires additional plan check, et cetera. So I think that's important to have that perspective, that it's not quite as much as it sounds like just for community development to do the plan check.
So how much is it?
My staff told me yesterday that we've collected $24,000 for the work that we've done over the last year and a half.
So then where is the rest of the money going for 401?
I don't have it with me. I'd have to get it. And also part of these numbers is the budget, the request for appropriation. So, if we don't necessarily also spend all the money, that is also a great thing. But I would have to get my staff to tell me to date what we have spent to all the different agencies for permitting. I don't have that with me.
So Dr. Jolly, the CDD only got 24,000.
That is what my building official told me yesterday.
Out of 425,000, right?
Correct. If there are additional requests for plan check, if there were additional building permits that needed to be issued, of course, there would be fees for that. But I'm unaware if there actually will be at this point.
If I may, through the chair, if you'd like, I could ask Director Wirtz to provide you with the detailed, items of where the total is now, 420 or 600?
425,000.
Thank you. The 425,000 to at least detail, because as Director Jolly is saying, CDD has only received 24, but that doesn't mean that it's not budgeted. It could be budgeted for 75,000, and as work gets done, that's how, because they just get the funding for the cost of doing business for their plan check review. But I think we could at least provide you with a detailed description of where that 425,000 is budgeted for.
Thank you. Sir, you think it will help if we continue this item and it gives you more time to figure out what exactly are we talking about?
Well, sure, we can continue the item. Just continuing the item and not being able to increase the appropriations to allow us to continue the work, order furnishings, things of that nature, could bring the project to a halt and not allow, and that could potentially get into a point, if we're not judicious in moving this forward, that the county could then have liquidated damage they could be paying the contractor because the contractor wouldn't expect us to hold this up. Again, what we're looking to do at the moment is request to increase the appropriations based on the budget we believe we need to complete the project and deliver it in a judicial manner with everything that's going on. If we don't need to spend all of this, we won't. And when we come back and close out the project, we will be able to show here's what was spent compared to the budget and here's where everything went. There definitely is some more work that my team needs to do to answer some of these questions and answer them for me. And we need to go through that and put that as a priority over some of the other projects that we're currently working on so that we can deliver this.
So there is a deadline.
There is a deadline for the project. We currently are estimating that the substantial completion is scheduled around September, with certificate of occupancy being in October of 2025. And holding this up could affect the contractor and the county in the procurement of all the everything we need to complete the project in a timely manner.
When do you think you can tell this body where 401,000 is going? If 24,000 going to CDD?
I will, through the board, we are instructing staff right this second to go and find out that information. So if you want it brought back in a public forum, we can agendize something. I think the next meeting's in 2 weeks, or I can provide you that information offline of where we are currently have spent and what we plan to spend for all those permitting agencies.
Through the chair, if I could ask County Council, could we pull this item, let staff hopefully get it to us right away, and then come back before the meeting's over and we can continue and maybe come back with this item?
Sure, that is an option, absolutely.
I mean, excuse me, but I think we scared the fear in them to find out the information and due process. I think we have everybody. I don't know that we need to stop this because we've been spending a lot of time.
Actually, Mr. Chairman,
I get it, but I'm just saying
disagree.
we did the same thing on the sheriff's, right? Didn't we have to come back for extra money for the sheriff's? I mean, I get it. So 2 weeks is not going to make. So it's just long. I don't want to pay penalties. So I mean, if we've got to the point of where we're at, I mean, I'm
Mr. Chairman,
2 weeks.
I do. I agree with Supervisor Dollywall. I mean, the homework, and I know it's not your fault. You weren't here, and then there's some other things going on.
Okay.
But I don't think we're doing our duty if we just feel comfortable that that's not our job. We need.
No, I mean, that's fine. I just don't want to stop construction.
These aren't construction
right,
costs.
so it won't stop construction. That's my only.
You got to have a building before you put furniture.
Okay. Well, that's my only concern is
Through the chair. I don't know if the CEO was or CAO was suggesting that maybe we postpone this till later in the meeting, and so we could still address it today.
Because I'm going to have some other questions. I've got a lot of other questions.
That's fine. Then I mean,
want
that's
2 weeks.
2 people want to wait, so then that's you have to bring the motion forward and
Supervisor Dollywall,
right? Bring the motion forward and we'll vote on it and
I think
postpone it.
In my previous positions, when I decided if I'm going to vote yes or no, I ask myself, am I able to explain that to the people that I represent? If I'm asked this question, 24,000 went to CDD, where did the 401 go? And And can you imagine, I tell them, I don't know, that means I'm not doing my duty.
So then what's the best way to get the questions, so going
Because,
forward?
you know, like Supervisor Ding said, we are custodians of taxpayers' money, and we need to know what exactly is we talking about. So if we can continue to, this
Well, at this
meeting
point, I would
after,
suggest continue it 2 weeks. I mean, my staff needs time to do their job. And this is a great learning opportunity for our capital projects administration, for myself, and for general services, that we need to do a better job and not rely on what we've been relying on in the past. And so the staff needs that time to do the work, and we will proceed as quickly as we can, but we need to table this to another agenda.
We can move it to March 25th
if we continue for 2 weeks, does it create any issues with the project or no?
Offhand, it will hold 2 weeks later, procuring potentially equipment that are above and beyond the existing what's been appropriated $1.2 million of soft costs.
Okay, so then one of the bigger problem I have is what was the contingency, and that's probably more of the biggest issue, is why that wasn't put into this to take care of the incidentals like this. I mean, we have a building right around here, the district attorneys, I mean, are we gonna run into the same problems? We ran into the same problems at the Arna Farm, where the number kept changing and changing and changing, and I mean, and I get that, so I get the part that we're at, but I mean, as we set policy and procedure, we don't check contracts and procurement and all those things. And I get there's a fine line of us setting policy and procedure and the folks doing it. So we need to clean up a little more of the things that we have going, the outside sources, the fire districts, because I see that. I get complaints from the city that I'm not even at the city anymore about issues that they're having in the building department. And I think that's what we need to look at, like the thing earlier about the ordinance. What we need to fix and how we fix it on the dais here is us and policy and procedure going forward, so that it doesn't happen again. This doesn't happen. I mean, we have costs that change and fluctuate and go up and down, and it's absolutely sickening, but I get it. So we want to do this, and so do we need to pull this, county council? And then how are we going to find out each board
Need a
member's
motion,
questions? So we need to clarify that first, right? Of how each one of them is going to have a meeting with what their concerns are offline.
I would suggest that the Director Wertz can contact each of the board members to make sure that all the questions are.
Okay, and it wasn't, I just didn't want to have to, I know we need to be mindful, and I am very mindful of that, because you know how much I read the budgets and things like that. I just don't want to stop a project that we've been working so hard for, and the finish line is finally getting there, and now we throw a wrench in it, which every government project has wrenches thrown in it. So I think we also need to figure out basically where it went wrong and fix it so that it doesn't happen in the future again, is my biggest concern.
Mr. Chairman, I can support continuation for 2 weeks.
Okay.
And I don't think that's going to cause.
Okay, so we're gonna pull this item also for a current vote. So we have a first on the floor and a second to postpone for 2 weeks. Offline, we're going to get the questions, preferably the questions that everybody has, as far as how these numbers have changed so drastically. And thank you for being new at this and trying to field as many as you can in the short time. So not to belittle staff, I think we're all in this together, and we want the best thing for San Joaquin County, so I'll call for the vote.
Do we have a motion and a second?
Yeah.
Yeah, you made it.
Okay, awesome.
Go ahead and vote, please.
Thank you, sir.
Motion passes 5-0 to continue this item for 2 weeks. So thank you for everybody's wherewithal to get this forward and get everyone's questions answered. So thank you very much. We are on Supervisor Gardia and item number 16, please.
Can you provide just a little bit more information on this project?
Good morning again, Genevieve Valentine, in this case, Behavioral Health Director. So through the chair to Supervisor Gardia. So the Satellite 2 project is actually something that we've been working on for well over 12 months. So when we established Satellite 1, which is a transitional housing project, was for just transitional housing connected to Care Court. So our members and petitioners into Care Court would go into the transitional housing project, Satellite 1. What we realized as we were planning was once someone goes through transitional housing, we wanted to be able to offer, if successful, permanent supportive housing options within the safe milieu. So many of our Care Court individuals are justice involved, as you are aware, also Satellite 1 individuals. So in order to maintain safety, we did some programming and work with the city of Stockton on how could we actually construct 24 permanent supportive housing units on that same plot of land. And so with the Housing Authority and ARPA funds, we cobbled together a variety of funds in order to make that project happen. The construction costs of the $11.2 million that we would be funding from ARPA and MHSA, Behavioral Health Funds, actually cover similar things that we were just talking about, because we would be doing brand new construction in a parking lot. So new sewer lines, PG&E, water lines, the fire protection and life-saving equipment that the city requires, prevailing wage. There are new green building requirements, current construction costs with a contingency plan, permitting to match the HUD requirements that are federal, and to fully furnish each of those units, so there would be fully furnished, would be the $11.2 million that we are hoping to be able to spend, because it's already been approved. We just now know that the project is viable and that we can move it forward.
And so, just for clarification, no general budget funds?
No general budget funds. This will be ARPA and BHS MHSA funds.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I apologize, I should have read this. So this is item 16. It was approval of agreement with Housing Authority of the County of San Joaquin for the construction of Satellite 2 apartments complex for the period of March 1st, 2025 to January 31st, 2045 in the amount of $11.2 million. So the 20-year agreement is the longevity of the contract in which they will be providing behavioral health services, the services of these apartments.
Through to the chair, yes, in addition to the HUD vouchers. So they would be required to do HUD vouchers and allow behavioral health to have first right of refusal of those 24 units for a minimum of 20 years, and then the ability to extend after that.
Okay, for people watching, I'm going to start reading this so that they know where we're at and what we're talking about. Thank you. Any further questions?
I think I have the next item too.
You're up next, okay. Oh, Vice Chair Dollywall.
Just a comment. Genevieve, thank you so much for everything you are doing.
Thank you.
Really, really appreciate it. It's not going unnoticed. And, talking about this project, these kind of projects are exactly, they're going to tell the public that, greatness does grow here. And it helps the entire county, so appreciate your efforts.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah, we talk about the lack of housing and places for folks to go, and this is what helps. It's very expensive, and they're long-term wraparound services that are also provided. So thank you too also for what you do.
Thank you.
Any other further questions? Ms. Valentine, so you're up next for item number 19, which is behavioral health services. Approve agreements for medical transportation services with Citizens Medical Response, LLC, and North Star Emergency Service Incorporated, doing business as North Cal Ambulance for the period of July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2028 in the amount of $2.25 million. Supervisor Garcia.
So I got a couple questions. First one would be, is this a contract extension?
So through the chair to Supervisor Garcia, it is a extension of current agreements. Most of the agreements actually started in 2015. I think the other one was 2017.
So the last time it went out for RFP was 2017?
So that's a wonderful question. So BHS in of itself does not do RFPs for ambulance-based services because we cannot regulate ambulance-based services. So vendors that behavioral health uses are connected to EMS's permitting process. So we will be able to look again when the EMS RFP goes out for those that are permitted through BLS programming. So we ourselves do not do the RFP. We look at the licensed and permitted through EMS.
Is that a common practice with counties?
So through the chair, because behavioral health has no true regulatory understanding of what ambulance services does, I mean, we don't want to go into that scope of practice. We trust the local EMS agencies to make that happen. Ambulance services for behavioral health that are non-emergent, when we are moving individuals to higher levels of care, those that are in our locked facilities that then go to court, require long days of travel. And so county behavioral health departments oftentimes do look specifically at the current permitted BLS programming in order to make that process and service happen. And they are not reimbursable insurance services. As the last payer of resort for mental health patients, this is a direct fund request from behavioral health and our realignment dollars because Medi-Cal will not reimburse this level of transport.
Okay.
Can you refresh my memory? We just did that where one of the vendors wasn't using, or they weren't utilizing it. Can you refresh, kind of same idea? I know that was just recently.
Yes, so it's actually, Chairman Canepa, it's actually the same two individuals, the same two groups. North Star was not taking a lot of our clients because, as many of you know, behavioral health clients are not easy. And when you have to potentially have them in an ambulance for up to 12, 14 hours for transportation, most ambulance services don't want to take on our clients. So we've now bundled the two that have agreed so far to transport our behavioral health patients. Anyone that is currently permitted through BLS, through EMS, if they are interested, we can still add them before the RFP if they are interested. Because for just transparency, not everyone wants chronically mentally ill individuals in an ambulance for that long.
Right.
But yes, it's the
and
same
the last
two.
time we took the money and put it to the other two.
To the other
Okay.
one, so it's bundled,
All right,
that is
perfect.
correct.
Supervisor, are you good? Okay.
So with that said, they have the ability to pick and choose what patients they want to take and not take?
So what we end up doing is we look at the current contract between the two, and within the initial contract, some of them will say we don't want someone who potentially is co-occurring, so substance abuse and mental health. It's possible that there is time restrictions. Sometimes it's also connected to other things that are going on when we need that transport. So between the two, we will usually go of who might be interested in taking this individual. For transparency, Citizen Medical Response responds quicker and faster, and there's usually time sensitivity. Us making sure an individual is leaving our ERs, leaving our inpatient unit. So sometimes it's also how quickly they are responding to our request to get someone potentially out of the jail or out of an ER.
Yeah, so my only suggestion is if we're looking at extending, these contracts in the future, maybe we have a sit down and maybe look to see if possibly, if other counties are looking to do an RFP or just to kind of see what other opportunities are out there to better provide service to our community.
Through the chair, one of the things that we are actually also considering is a non-ambulance-based transportation contract for those that are more of our moderate and stable individuals. That way we're not actually using BLS ambulances. So it's very possible in the future you guys may see a non-emergency transport contract coming your way for those that are more stable, that we wouldn't need that level of service as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you BLS for people that don't know what basic life services?
Basic life services
Thank you.
for ambulances.
Thank you. Supervisor Dean.
Thank you. I cannot pass up this opportunity. Genevieve Valentine, you are a consummate professional. I was so proud to have you on our team last week. For those of you who don't know, we've been back in DC for a week, well, on a variety of issues, but one of them was to raise the 16-bed cap. You helped us through. I've got Genevieve, we had to go through the subcommittee for proclamations, and I've got this behavioral health doctor from Chicago and somebody else, and I don't know what these guys are talking about, the TL key of the PR 457, what have you. She speaks to me, though, like a sixth grade teacher, so I can understand, and I appreciate that. So she was like a translator. The resolution went unanimously through the committee and then unanimously through the entire National County Supervisors Association with your guidance. The confidence you gave me was immense, and I thank you for tracking from White House meetings to Senate meetings to House meetings to committee. I mean, you were a trooper, and I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you. It was one of the greatest learning experiences I've had in a very long time. So Supervisor Dink, thank you for bringing me along with you and allowing to learn from you.
I have to admit, she is a trooper because we had to sit in the back of a Toyota Highlander with our knees and our necks. And I about died of laughter when we were sitting back there. I thought, if this isn't dedication to the job and what you do, and I do, and I don't think you sleep, so I do appreciate what you do and getting people better mental health and obviously health services now that you're the new interim director. But thank you also for what you do, and Supervisor Ding for going to NACO and making our voices heard. And I think that's important, as a board to set policy and procedure and be well. I mean, we went down there and knocked it out of the park, and so hopefully we'll get that $130 million coming.
$130 million. Hopefully awards will be announced in May.
So fingers crossed, legs crossed, and some other things, right? So, well, Supervisor Ding, please help them. So, after that, we will move on. Any further questions? Open it up for the public comment. Anyone from the public like to speak? Seeing none. So we're coming back to consent.
For the kind words.
Huh?
Thank you for the kind words.
So we're going to come back. We'll ask for a motion minus number 2, which we've already voted on, and number 5. So do I have a motion to accept the remainder of the consent as stands?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Call for the vote.
I
Motion
apologize.
passes.
I just want to clarify real quick. Was that Supervisor Gardia on the seconder? That's what I thought. It accidentally clicked on Gardia, so I'll correct that.
Okay. Motion passes 5-0 minus 2 and 5, which we've already voted on for future consideration. Are we going to stretch it, closed session? Should we go through discussion? What's your preference?
We don't have anybody coming in from outside, so we can do that at the end if the chair wants to do it that way.
At this time, we'll move on to discussion for general government, and it looks like the CAO's office is on deck. For authorize the use of 3.136,607 and interest accrued from the American Rescue Plan Act fund balance to augment 8 previously approved projects and fund annual costs for the San Joaquin County Joint Radio Users Group. So this is obviously the interest off of ARPA, and we're going to have a discussion. County Council. No, County Administrator, sorry.
Good morning, Chairman Canepa, members of the board, County Council, Clerk of the Board, and Mrs. Regallo. Sarah Stickler with the County Administrator's Office. Today I'll be presenting recommendations to allocate the $3.1 million in interest accrued from the ARPA plan. This include augmenting previously approved projects facing shortfalls and funding the Joint Radio Users Group annual radio maintenance costs. These come, as you mentioned earlier, these funds come from interest earned from our ARPA allocation. As you guys may remember, in December, we had to allocate the entire 148 million, and these funds come from interest accrued from that allocation. No new projects are being considered, only previously approved initiatives that needed additional funding. Up on the slide above, you will see the organizations that have requested additional funding. I can go through individually if you guys liked what they're asking for, but these are all previously approved projects from your board.
I'll stop. Is there any questions or what you guys want to do going forward? Or go ahead. Supervisor Gardia has.
Just a quick update on some of the projects going down the list.
Oh, of course. For the American Legion Post 16, they had some additional costs related to their facade and parking lot improvements, including some lighting and additional ADA requirements. When the original bid came in, these were some unanticipated costs that the post came back to us. And because it was a previously approved project, it was things the contractor identified that could do a better job of completing the project. For Ripon Post 190, it was permitting costs and architecture that were not accounted for in the original bid. So their project is complete, and that was the shortfall from their project, the 39,129. For American Legion Post 249, they are doing a building remodel, and there are representatives here from Post 249 that can better describe their shortfalls. They're a little further behind in their project, and these were costs that Mr. Axland identified that would help complete their building remodel. For Tracy, Post 172, we had previously approved a floor cleaner and a shade structure, and because they encountered some overage in other projects, they were not able to purchase those items, so they were coming back and asking for the $22,000 to complete those projects. South County Fire, Chief Bradley is here, and he can do a better description of the completion of their project. And ultimately, due to delays in construction, costs have just increased. It was approximately 2 years ago when we allocated the first apportionment, the $2.8 million. And after they've gone through the process, and I do have a letter from Mr. Bradley that I can share with the board members that describes in detail their program shortfalls.
And if I could just add, that is for a training facility.
Thank you, Sandy. For Montezuma Fire, they had a small ask initially for a fire vehicle, a truck, and the additional $51,000 is for outfitting the vehicle, which was aligned. A lot of the fire districts asked for vehicles and outfitting, and the price point aligned with other fire districts' requests. And again, Montezuma Fire, they incurred those costs, and when we came back and asked them if they had, the chief identified they had already expended those funds, but it was for a project that we had previously approved. McCollum Fire, we approved partial funding for a water tender, and with some funds that were reallocated from a project that could not be funded with federal funds, and the remaining funding is for the rest of the water tender, and they are about $500,000, these water tenders. And finally, Woodbridge Fire, they had to move a fire hydrant, and one other thing, and I can't remember off the top of my head. Oh, and some additional, a fire hydrant, about $40,000 was for moving a fire hydrant, and $10,000 for completing their classroom project.
Thanks for having your backup today. We appreciate it. Supervisor Dhaliwal, or Vice Chair Dhaliwal, Supervisor Gardia, are we done with the question? Is that okay, the way that she did it for you?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, I had a meeting with the American Legion Post 249, Mr. Axland and Mr. Silverman. They're both here. We were very concerned, what are we going to do? Where the money going to come from? And next day, I called Sarah, and she goes, "Don't worry, we can help." So thank you so much. It means a lot to me and to all our veterans from the post in Manteca.
Thank you to CAO Regalo. It was her idea to use our interests to fund all of these projects.
Thank you. Sandy, thank you so much. And Mr. Axland, would you like to say a few words that you can share with the board, the issue that you ran into and.
Thank you, Supervisor. All of you, thank you so very much. We felt very blessed when we received the initial grant. We're just soldiers, so the problem that we ran into is that it was almost 3 years ago that our estimate for this ADA remodel, as we've talked about before, our hall did not have access for disabled of any type, veterans especially, to be able to use the restrooms, get into the hall. So all of this is necessary for that. But we had an estimate, and that's what we turned in when we turned in our initial estimate. And what that didn't take into account was paying prevailing wage. And so when we received the funds and we began the process about a year out, we found that we were going to need to pay prevailing wage, which added quite a bit of expense. And then over the several years that it took to get us to today, where we're about 75% done with the project, equipment costs went up and material costs went up also. So the difference that we are asking for is the difference between paying a prevailing wage and also the increase in equipment costs and materials. But right now, they've done some painting inside. I was in there this morning. They're putting FRP around in the bathrooms, and so we still got quite a bit to go. But we're moving forward. We are anticipating that this project be completed around June 1st, and we are hoping that once this is completed, that we will work with the county, work with the city, and start putting on some very good events to help our veterans. Bring in NorCal VA to do health checks. We would like to have VSOs be able to meet there. Veterans come in and learn about what their benefits are and what the Veteran Service Offices can do for them. And we're really excited about completing this and being up to speed and up to date to be able to help our veterans. This is the first remodel of this building in almost 100 years. And so they've had little things over the last 100 years, but this will really make a big difference in the veterans of our community. So thank you very much for considering this.
Awesome. Thank you. Sorry, we interrupted your presentation. I apologize. So Ms. Sickler, you can talk about J-Rug if you like. Thank you, guys. I mean, it's an absolute amazing use of money, and we're glad to be part of it. I know that. I mean, I'm very proud of it also. So
thank you, all of you.
Thank you. Carry on, and then we'll come back for board comments. Sorry to interrupt your presentation.
Finally, we would like to allocate $1 million for ISD costs for our joint radio users group. In previous allocations, in collaboration with ISD, we've purchased about $1.2 million in radios. Then it came to our attention that with those additional radios, there was considerable cost for using the satellite or the wavelength. So this would cover, it's approximately a little 250 radios, and this would cover costs for approximately 10 to 15 years. We discussed what to allocate towards it, but because it's for such a long period of time, we thought that the $1 million mark, and then once that funding, just until it's exhausted. And I think it's about $75,000 a year at this time. And then If all of these items are approved, that will leave approximately $1.9 million in interest. And that's all I have. If there's any questions.
Perfect. So those are the repeaters, right, for the radios? And then this is a huge thing that they don't have to pay for 10 to 15 years. And then after the 15 years, what happens? They're on their own, or do we help?
Through the chair, that is correct.
I mean,
Well,
we're watching dimes, so we gotta, right? We gotta stay at it.
if I may, just to answer your question, yes, we thought it would be fair to at least try and service them through the life of the equipment. And although I think the vendor would say 7 to 10 years, we did speak to them and they said, we use it for more than 10 years, 15 years, 20 years sometimes. So then we thought we landed on $1 million, and that would be up to 15 years as costs escalate. Right now, it's about $75,000 a year to service the 250 radios. Throughout. And then I just wanted to add, just as a reminder, because these are federal funds, they're ARPA funds, that's why we have to do the prevailing wage.
That was my next question. So when do we, if they don't spend it, drop dead dates December 2026, correct? So when do we, next year sometime, say, hey, or how does that work? I mean, I know this is interest, and there's a low remaining balance. I mean, so how does that work?
So go ahead.
I'll go to Supervisor Gardia for his question. And
So per the federal guidelines, at this time, the direction is that these have to be ARPA eligible projects, but there is not a time limit on the funds as there was with the initial $148 million.
Oh, so they don't have to be spent by the timeline?
Right. The initial allocation, they still have to get done before December of 2026.
Okay.
But not the interest.
Oh, perfect, okay.
And that's why, just to add as well, I apologize, through the chair. When we sat down, we thought we didn't want to open it up to new projects because, we only have a small amount, I shouldn't say small amount, it's pretty significant, of interest, but that's going to go away. And so we thought it would be fair to at least ask the ones that already have projects and ask what the shortfall was, if they had a shortfall. And then we'll go from there.
Yeah, because honest people don't ask big and then go backwards. They ask small, and then, I think that's pretty decent. And then the ability to get the work done with the extra interest is masterful. So thank you for that. Supervisor Gardia.
Yeah, I think it feels good to be up here and hear that these are projects that are helping our veterans and helping public safety and dealing with some of the ongoing costs when it happens to do with equipment that we're, looking not 1-2 years out, we're looking 10 years out, which helps out, all the different departments and different organizations that we support. So I appreciate the two gentlemen that come up here and speaking to it, and I'm excited to see American Legion in Montezuma and Tracy, South County fire districts getting the support, and this is good. It's good to sit up here and vote on something that's going to help our community.
Thank you.
Yeah, likewise, the building hasn't been touched in 100 years. I mean, that's putting out maintenance a ways, but it's glad to be a part of it also. So any other supervisor comments? Okay, we'll open it up. Your presentation's done?
Yes.
All right, public comment. Who from the public would like to share their wisdom? Good. What are we at? Still good morning.
Chair, members of the board, I just want to take a moment and thank you for the support of public safety. This facility in South County is one of a kind. We've needed a training facility, largest area without a training facility probably in California for the size of our fire agencies that this will support. So right on the border of the county area and the city area, so it can really support different fire agencies. Staff has been incredible at supporting this project, and again, I just wanted to say thank you. It'll lead to better training for our firefighters in the South County, and it also, which will equate to better outcomes on emergencies. So thank you again, board, for being such a supporter of public safety.
Thank you. Thank you for your advocacy for the people.
I would like to echo Chief Bradley's comments he just made. Also, on behalf of the JRUG, as a secretary, I'd like to thank our county administrator. She worked very hard to work with us on the issues that we came up with after we received all these radios. Then we found out the infrastructure was an issue. So we're really grateful. On behalf of JRUG, we thank you. And on behalf of Montezuma Fire District, I'm very grateful for the additional command vehicle we were able to get. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? Well, I'd like to speak. Okay, I'll bring it back to the board. Supervisor Rickman.
Thank you, Chairman. And first of all, thank you to our CAO, Sandy, and Sarah, that just absolutely disappeared. When I looked back, you were gone.
She ran.
Thank you both for bringing this forward and your continued hard work, this whole ARPA funding and stuff. I know it's been a lot of work, and so thank you both and your team for that. And not just this board appreciates it, but many residents of this county that do also, and agencies. But looking at some of these projects, American Legion, this is at least we could do. And, we spent a lot of this money on our veterans because to show you, we can't say enough how much we appreciate our veterans and what you guys have done for not just this county or the state, but the nation as a whole. And, we owe you gratitude that we can never repay. But what we can do is, use the funding that we have to take care of our veterans. And in this case, the facilities where you guys meet. So again, thank you all for, what you have done. God bless you. And I mentioned it earlier with public safety. Public safety is a priority of this board. And, when we started using the ARPA funds, I remember discussing with our fire departments getting them boats. And, we kind of got a little bit of pushback. Or at least I got a little bit of pushback in the beginning about boats. Oh, why do you need boats and so on? And well, my God, we're surrounded by water. And we approved it, and guess what happened? We had the flooding. So that shows you. And it shows the commitments of this board of public safety, and especially with our firefighters. And, we don't have a county firefighting agency per se like you see in different counties. So we rely on the JPAs and the different departments. So they respond to unincorporated areas, and they are, in all intents and purposes, our firefighters and our fire agencies, right? So the funding with, for example, the South San Joaquin Fire Authority with their training tower, and it's not going to be used just for South County, but it's a training facility that can be used by agencies throughout the county, and to, train on, with the tower, with, fighting fires, classroom study, and what that does, of course, protects our residents even better with training, but also makes sure our firefighters receive the proper training, the most up-to-date training, so they can return home safely to their families every single day after they're entered their shift. And you see what's going on in the state, down south with those huge fires. So, this will make sure at least provide the opportunity to receive the updated training and make sure our firefighters are taken care of. So I'm proud of this list. I'm proud of this board on previous boards, and I'm proud of our administration and our county for the work that you have done. So thank you all very much. It's an absolute honor to be able to be in this position to help you all out. So thank you all, and God bless you.
Thank you, Supervisor Rickman. Any other comments? It is a good time to do this when you're a public servant, because you get to see the smiles and you get to see the effect that we have in the community. And I think it is, thank you for your service. And everybody does that. And I mean, a lot of times, we don't appreciate everybody, but this ARPA money and the thoughtfulness of them coming back to find the money, thank you for that from your office, I think is huge, because everyone always, I mean, we keep seeing these costs, they escalate, and the prevailing wage, you know, which we need to keep our people employed locally, and keep that money locally, so that's also important, for us as a board to make sure that it multiplies on our local economy, so, thank you for the presentation. Any other further questions? We'll move on to the next item.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, and a second. We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, can we have a call for the vote, please? Motion passes 5-0, so thank you. Thank you for coming and sharing. Next discussion, you're already ready, good, so I don't need to tee you up. So discussion number 2, Public Works, approve the Kennedy Community Complete Streets Plan for the first district. Director Buckman and Mr. Levers, you guys have the floor.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Canepa and board members. I'm Fritz Buckman, your Director of Public Works. Today, we are pleased to present the Kennedy Community Complete Streets Plan for your consideration. Public Works secured a state sustainable communities grant through Caltrans to develop a community-driven active transportation plan that will improve mobility and traffic safety within the Kennedy community. With me today, is Mr. Jeff Levers, who oversaw development of the plan, and he will outline the process we used to develop the plan and outreach to the community. Mr. Levers, take it away, please.
Thank you, Director. I'm happy to be here today to share all the hard work that my staff has been doing on this wonderful project. So, can you pass me?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that. All right, and there we are. So today I will go through, as the director said, we'll do a slight overview of the agenda here, recap some of our community engagement, go through our existing conditions, the alternatives developed, and share with you the recommendations and the next steps for this project. Starting off, the Kennedy community is an area of South Stockton. It has B Street, Pock Lane, and 8th Street that go through this neighborhood as major roads. 8th Street noticeable as a major connector between Airport Way and Mariposa Road. It has several schools, notably Hamilton and Monroe Elementaries are right across the street from each other on 11th Street. There's also Maya Angelou Branch Library, the Kennedy Community Center, an adjacent park, and several local churches, stores, and markets. So the goals of our plan here were to evaluate safety in the neighborhood, to look at connectivity for all modes. That would include bicyclists, pedestrian, and transit through SJRTD, and also to ensure that the plan moving forward with recommendations had equal opportunities for everyone, just not for automotive transportation. So this is a complete street plan, and that is looking for, as I mentioned, pedestrians, bikes. It's also looking at all ages and abilities of travel in the neighborhood. So on our project timeline, you'll see public engagement made up about half of this. It was a key part of our outreach. We started this in summer of 2023 after securing our funding, evaluating existing conditions, doing data collection, and then taking that back to the public in that fall of 23 to make sure that we were on the right track. Once we've heard from the public, we spent the winter developing recommendations, doing further analysis, did a second round of outreach with the public in February to make sure that we had interpreted everything okay. We took everything that we heard at that point, returned to the drawing board, and from March to August, we developed the draft plan and did one final round of review in September, resulting in the plan here before you today. So as a part of our outreach, we did our standard community meetings, but we also had a few other noteworthy pop-ups in here. We kicked this off by attending the farmers market up at the mall on Pacific in September to get a little bit more outreach for the area. And we also attended we closed up our first round with the Halloween festival that was held at St. Linus's Church in Halloween of 2023. So what we heard from the community as we did all this outreach was speeding. We have lots of concerns about speeding, specifically on B Street was our highest one. Also comments about needing sidewalks, poor quality sidewalks needing improvement or missing areas. Pock Lane was one of those that was highlighted as needing more sidewalks. And we also heard a lot about the congestion during pickup and drop-off times at the two elementary schools. So as we looked through the existing conditions, we evaluated those schools that were in question. We looked at some future development that's in the area, both residential along Pock Lane and our future development to the south near Air Park 599 and how it would affect the neighborhood. We took inventory of everything out there, including our sidewalks, the sole bike lane that is on B Street, and also worked with San Joaquin Regional Transit District to identify their transit routes in the area, and we looked at a comprehensive collision analysis of the entire area. So here are the two major streets that transverse the area with sidewalks. We have 8th Street, which is an east-west street through there, and B Street, which runs from Caltrans in the north all the way down to Arch Airport by Air Park 599. They're both similar right-of-ways, but you'll notice on the top, 8th Street does have extremely wide drive lanes. There's no additional striping, which is a direct contributor to the higher speeds that are observed by the residents in the area. And as I noted earlier, B Street is the sole street that does have a striped bike lane on there, which is what led to requests to look into that on other streets in the area. So moving forward, we evaluated several alternatives, and this was the alternative preferred by the community for 8th Street, was the addition of bicycle lanes. This goes beyond your normal bicycle lanes. This is called a Class 4 bikeway. The term Class 4 specifically refers to a bicycle facility that is separated by a physical barrier. Your traditional ones, Class 2, would just be striping with no physical barrier. So in this case, we took that to the next level. We have both barricades and we are doing parking protected. That moves the bicycle lanes adjacent to the sidewalk to give that additional safety and comfort level to the bicyclist on the corridor. And here is a rendering that our consultant prepared. This is the intersection of B Street and 8th Street. You can see those Class 4 bikeways off in the distance. This also has some additional features. We have the green paint, which is becoming the standard for bicycle facilities at intersections. And then just in front of the bus there, you can see improvements at the RTD bus stop that is in place today. On B Street, we took things even further. One of the requests we had is how can we take those existing bike lanes and make them even safer? This was the alternative that came to the top. It is also considered a Class 4 bikeway, but this one took both bike lanes, moved them to one side, and separated them from the traffic completely. And on this, you can see the rendering here. This would be an example of how this would be done. Other traffic calming features here could be the demonstrated raised crosswalk. We have rapid flashing beacons and marked crosswalks at that raised intersection. And notably here, a major concern that always comes up on the bottom left of the picture, you can see brakes in that barrier so that way anyone who has a driveway along that left side would be able to access. So there would be no limitation of access to any residences with this. The other major street I'd mentioned earlier, Pock Lane, does not currently have sidewalks through most of the area. And the preferred alternative that came up here was to keep the roadway in its existing configuration as a 2-lane road and instead add this Class 1 bikeway along the east side. In this configuration, this would connect to the Maya Angelou Library in the city of Stockton to the north of that, and it would connect on the south to residential neighborhoods within the city of Stockton. And the final area that we really evaluated was the school area. This would be 11th Street between Monroe and Hamilton Elementary Schools. There is a lot of congestion. I spent many, many hours out here watching buses and parents, and we determined multiple ideas I could do here to fix various congestion items. We identified crosswalks at each of the major school entrances where children are let out. We've looked at potentially doing median fencing to prevent illegal U-turns, which can be dangerous as children are trying to run across the street. And we also have a potential of doing that raised intersection at D and 11th, as you can see on the left side of the rendering. Also on the right side of the rendering, there is a proposed widened sidewalk on the south side of 11th that would connect to that Class 1 bike path I showed you on the last slide. And note that any improvements here would be a joint venture between us and Stockton Unified School District, as the right-of-way would encompass partly on our right-of-way for improvements, partly on theirs. So once we got this all together, we put together a list of projects and we divided it into these 8 categories. The total we came to was about $36 million in construction to do everything from specific improvements on 8th Street and B Street outline to smaller improvement that includes additional sidewalks throughout the community, bike upgrades, and lighting. So to fund this, we were looking into every funding mechanism out there. This is a pretty comprehensive list of everything we can look at. Local and regional funding opportunities. I want to highlight our own Measure K sales tax, which is very beneficial to these types of projects for public works. And we have many state and federal opportunities. The best state funding opportunity here is the Active Transportation Program, or ATP. Public Works has been very successful on this, recently securing over $4 million for the Boggs Track community, and a few years prior, almost $2 million for sidewalks on Section and Oro east of 99. So this would be an excellent fit for this, and we're confident that moving forward, this will be a contributor to completing this plan. So the next steps here is, assuming you approve our plan here, we will continue with our public outreach, specifically targeting the businesses and constituents that will be most affected and making sure that everything that we do moving forward is what the community continues to be looking for. We will apply for and continue to secure funding toward these projects and then add it into our construction budget for Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Levers, Chair Canepa, and board members. This concludes our presentation. Public Works recommends that the board approve the Kennedy Community Complete Streets Plan, which, as Mr. Levers indicated, will allow us to begin seeking funding to implement the recommended improvements. Staff and I are available to respond to any questions the board may have.
I have a couple. So the Safe Routes to School, is that potential money for this funding, or that's a lot of dough, 37 million?
Yes, Chair. It is. Recently, they have combined Safe Routes to School within ATP. It's a focus category. They look at Safe Routes first, and then anything that wasn't Safe Routes still gets wrapped into ATP.
So of that amount, that 36 million roughly, is there kind of an idea, a possibility? Are you halfway there, quarter way there, or you don't know yet?
We're none of the way there right now.
But you're waiting on us? Is that what you're waiting?
Adopting this plan will give us standing to start seeking these funding, seeking out these funding opportunities.
Okay, and so I know it's when you do some of these changes, like the bike separation, when they get hit, are they easily replaced? Because, you see all these new things going up, and the new parking out into the street now, kind of with the bike paths on the side, was that something that you also looked at?
Yeah, when we implement these improvements, we're going to do everything we can to ensure that they are sustainable. So we have the means to maintain them if we put them out there.
Because when they're brand new, they look pretty, but as they age, they don't look as pretty.
Understood. And some of these barriers for bike lanes work better than others. They're higher maintenance than others. So we'll take a close look at that when we're selecting our devices.
It's nice to see places that have been neglected for so long to get some love. And so, Supervisor Rickman.
Thank you, Chairman. Just real quick, plans look great. I mean, you're looking at traffic safety, especially the bicycle and pedestrian safety. I think that's what every community wants, right? And at least what I hear is pedestrian bicycle safety. So the plans look great, and hopefully they'll save some lives.
Thank you.
So good job, you guys.
Thank you.
Supervisor Gardia.
Thank you for all the hard work on this, and yeah, anything that's going to improve the lives of the south end of Stockton is I support 100%. The only thing that I've seen in some of the areas that we've changed some of the lanes with the bike lanes, and some of it's the city of Stockton, is I think there needs to be a little bit of a little outreach to educate some of the people that, where to park and where not to park, because I see that as challenges right now in some of the areas. So like outreach, just to educate the community of proper ways of parking in those where the bike lanes are.
Understood.
Perfect. Any other questions? You need a vote for the recommendations to go forward?
Second.
First and a second here. Madam Clerk can call for the board. That was Gardia first, and so, you got it? Oh, public comment, I'm sorry, whoops.
Yeah, too late.
Sorry. My bad. All right, call for the vote. Go find the money.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Another Public Works. At this time, we will approve the Garden Acres Sustainable Communities Plan for the first district.
Thank you.
Fritz and Mr. Engel.
Correct. Good morning, Chair Canepa and board members. I'm Fritz Buckman, your Director of Public Works again. Today, we're also pleased to present the Garden Acres Sustainable Communities Plan for your consideration. Public Works secured a state sustainable communities grant through Caltrans to develop a community-driven active transportation plan to identify improvements that will improve mobility and traffic safety within the Garden Acres community. With me today is Mr. Adrian Engel, who's a principal with Fair and Pierce, the consulting firm who assisted us with developing the plan. And Mr. Engel will provide a brief presentation outlining the process to develop the plan and the recommended improvements for the Garden Acres community just east of Stockton. Mr. Engel?
Great. Thank you guys for having me today. This should feel a little bit of a deja vu from the presentation that Jeff just gave. A very similar funding source in a different area within the county. The Garden Acres community is surrounded by highways 26, 4, 99, and the diverting canal, isolated on the east side of Stockton, contain Franklin High School as well as 2 elementary schools. We looked at a comprehensive community plan driven by the community members themselves at trying to improve traffic safety and accessibility within that community. Key challenges that we heard from the community members included just a general lack of walking and biking facilities within the street. Most of the streets within the Garden Acres community are paved but have roadside ditches and unimproved edges. There are, like I mentioned, a number of schools within the area, especially Franklin High School, which draws a lot of kids and families from around the area, as well as from within Garden Acres itself. Being trapped inside the area with the freeways, there's also a lack of connectivity outside of the Garden Acres community with those big barriers that are there. So we looked at key regional connections for bikeways, as well as the levee along the diverting canal for future improvements as well. And then we heard from the community directly and why this project was started in the first place, with some of the driving behavior within the community of very high speeds, as well as road shows and other burnout type of activities that were happening in some of the larger intersections. So looking for countermeasures to help facilitate mediation of some of that as well. The vision for the plan was to improve access and safe, sustainable transportation options throughout the Garden Acres neighborhood. And we had a number of project goals and objectives, including a complete network of safe and attractive facilities to connect to key destinations, including schools, parks, and transit. We wanted to connect to that regional bikeways and provide better access outside of Garden Acres as well. And then really to improve safety for all of the residents and kids walking in the neighborhood by introducing some traffic calming elements, as well as improved crosswalks and sidewalks. This process also had a robust community engagement activity that started in July of 2023 with a technical advisory team field review that included stakeholders from the county, regional transit, as well as Caltrans, walking through the community with different members there and really understanding their issues firsthand. We had a number of community workshop and pop-up events. We sent out over 3,000 mailers to the neighborhood to advertise those, as well as online and email notifications. And then a number of events that we held at the community center as pop-up events at food distribution and other events to get the local residents engaged in the process. We had hundreds of community members attend our public workshops, our pop-up events, and our walking audits. Some of those are shown here, including a celebration at the end of the project that brought our community together for a breakfast on a Saturday morning and highlighted both the results of the plan as well as some of the other services utilized within the Garden Acres community. And then just to highlight a couple more of the events that we had looking at traffic safety, the middle picture represents a coffee with moms from the local school. After drop off in the morning, we met with them and got to hear firsthand their experiences of getting their kids to and from school in the community itself. And then the experiences we had at our community engagement activities really tried to encompass all ages for there. So having activities for kids, making different interactive elements, as well as providing food and other resources while the families were there. So with our recommendations, we focused at two levels. One was really looking at the entire Garden Acres area and trying to create a complete network. We know that the need for active transportation facilities out there outweighs the amount of resources that are going to be available for the foreseeable future. So really trying to find a select network of roadways to provide sidewalks to connect the parks, community center, as well as the schools. And then look for a network of slow streets where we can apply traffic calming and intersection improvements to improve bicycle access through the community as well. I'll highlight two of the key projects that we added more detail into the plan to be able to move those as priority projects. The first is Oro Avenue. It is one of the major north-south roadways that connects through the entire Garden Acres area. It's a relatively narrow right-of-way, about 50 feet. Here's the existing condition here, shown just a paved area with roadside ditches and few improvements. The proposed improvements along this would be sidewalk, curb and gutter, drainage improvements, and then on-street parking with a shared bicycle facility in the traveled lane with the traffic calming measures to slow vehicles down to be able to allow that mixing of bikes and cars to be safe. The second street is Washington Street that runs east-west. It is a sort of key corridor through Garden Acres that has a number of churches, retail establishments, and some of the other community serving establishments there. Washington Street has a wider right-of-way. It varies between 60 and up to 80 feet in places, and so we had a little bit more room to work with in terms of the proposed improvements. In this rendering, we're showing Washington Street have a separated sidewalk with the ability to put landscaping along the edge there, on-street parking, buffered bike lanes that have a painted buffer between the faster-moving cars and the bikeways, as well as one lane in each direction. We also focused on Washington Street to include bulb outs or traffic calming circles at key intersections to avoid some of the very long straightaways that we saw some of the higher speeds at. Beyond the individual streets, we've also identified a toolkit for different traffic calming elements and some programs that the community can move forward with as funding becomes available or in partnership with the school district. So as individual development improvements are coming forward, there may be elements from the toolkit that would be applicable. Or there may be some programmatic elements like walking school buses or bike skills workshops that could be partnered with the schools to be able to make it safer for kids to walk and bike. Lastly, the next steps, again, is approving this plan so that the county can seek funding for some of the priority projects. With that, we'll also include additional public engagement so that we can make sure that we're still meeting the needs of the community as conditions change into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Engel. Chair Canepa and board members, this concludes our presentation. Public Works recommends that the board approve the Garden Acres Sustainable Communities Plan, which will allow us to begin seeking funding to implement the recommended improvements. Mr. Engel, staff, and I are available to address any questions your board may have.
I just have one quick question, then we'll go to Supervisor Garcia. The humps and bumps, is that already part of it, or how does that work?
Those are elements in the toolkit that we've highlighted, and they residents would go through the county's process to identify where those are. The plan did not place specific ones at locations without going through a more robust public engagement process.
Okay, so then if people are asking for humps and bumps, is it put on hold or is it?
There's a
you don't
process.
want to obviously do humps and bumps if you're going to be redoing curb and gutter and streets, right? So is there?
Right. Well, we would try to implement them in a manner that eliminates throwaway improvements, but there's a process, as Mr. Engel indicated, that we will have people go through. There's criteria for what, kind of locations and what types of streets and volumes, and then there's proper or nearby property owner concurrence as well. So we would go through that same process we currently go through for speed humps throughout the county.
Because obviously there's a problem because there's burnout marks on the photos, so that's not reassuring. So I mean, maybe hopefully they stopped fast, right? And that's why the skid marks are on the picture. So
we can hope.
Supervisor Garcia.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious with the skid marks in the pictures. It's an issue, and I think the sheriff has done a really good job of slowing down our sideshows. The only thing that I think that would incorporate a safeguard to the burnouts is some type of camera system that we could, have the ability to get license plates in impound cars. Ultimately, I believe speed bumps won't fix that, but you get your car impounded for a month, it's probably going to keep you from doing it again in the future. But a person who grew up on all those streets that you name, I used to walk to school because I was afraid to take my bike because it would get stolen. And then I would walk home and get my bike and ride all the way to Bird Park to go to baseball practice. So, growing up out there, it was nothing but ditches. And it's really nice to go out there and actually see sidewalks that kids are able to use, and the improvements to the east side and also the south side and the other project are key elements to making our community better. And I'm super excited to be part of this and thankful for Chair Villaputa to be part of this in the past. But these are great improvements to the east and south side of Stockton. And I thank you guys for all your hard work on this.
Thank you.
Supervisor Rickman.
Thank you, Chairman. Real quick, again, great job. I mean, traffic safety is, always a priority, and, looking at what you're doing at the intersections and pedestrian and bike safety. So again, kudos. Kind of off topic for you, Director. How do I go about on 11th and Grant Line renaming it Najee Circle? Is that? oh, Najee, I didn't see you back there.
I think that process goes through community development, so we'll consult with them.
I'm gonna give him a bad time since I saw him over there. Thank you, guys. Good job.
We support our employees wholeheartedly, right? Perfect. Thank you, Supervisor. Any other comments, questions? Motion to show us the money or what?
No. Motion, sure, district. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call for the vote. Madam Clerk. Thank you. Motion passes 5-0. Very exciting. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Great presentations. Alrighty. At this time, we'll go for board comments, discussion items. You want to see it? It's
3 minutes.
It's long, so we got it. Yeah. Would somebody else like to go and share their total involvement in the community and show that we're up here earning our keep?
Yeah, I'll go real quick.
All right, thank you.
I don't think it's going to be as long as your list. I mean, I'll try to keep it pretty slim. But over the weekend, I had the honor to attend the 10-year annual celebration of Tracy Celebrates Children, and recognize Tracy High student Jake Helen for organizing the event. Tracy Celebrates Children honors a memory of Sandra Cantu and afforded us the opportunity and Tracy to celebrate all our kids. Crab feeds, there are tons of crab feeds. I remind everybody, if you can afford it, crab is always great and supports our local nonprofits. I just had the Portuguese crab feed over the weekend. I want to say thank you to the Animal Protection League and Tracy Animal Shelter for bringing the free dog and cat vaccine and rabies clinic to Tracy, and also my board aide Maria for attending also. Great turnout, and it's nice to see that type of services, not just in Stockton, but bringing them out to the north end and south end. So again, thank you. Last week I was in Sacramento as part of the San Joaquin Council of Government to accept the California Association of California Governments Eureka Award for the Stockton Mobility Collective Project. So kudos to Diane Nguyen and all the members of COG. That's one of the first, we did get first place for our project, the Eureka Award. So to our staff at COG and Diane and all the board members, and great job. And everybody was really excited about the program. Lastly, I'll end it with this. A lot of our time, again, I mentioned this before, is, we have committee meetings, of course, tons of committee meetings and board meetings and meetings of all kind. But what people don't see a lot of the time is our advocacy, what we do behind the scenes. A prime example is Supervisor Ding did a heck of a job, and Ms. Valentine went to Washington, D.C. I'll let you explain it. And what I hear and stuff, kudos to you. Thank you for taking the extra efforts to go out there for our mental health and so on. I know it was in Sacramento last week for COG. I'll be in there for Valley, back to Sacramento tonight for Valley Voice, the constituent of Valley, elected officials speaking to our senators, the legislators, about some of the projects that concern not just San Joaquin County, but other counties in the valley as a whole. But if we're not in meetings, we're looking, and I want to say Hillary Crowley, our legislative person here in the county, looking at laws and things that are going to impact our county and our residents, whether we support them or oppose them. So a lot of the times we are sending letters. A primary example is, we talk about the cost of living. Cost of living is probably the number one concern for residents here in San Joaquin County. We kind of touched on it about PG&E, and we've talked about PG&E for over 2 years now, and we've been the tip of the spear, pushing back against of all the 58 counties. We have been the loudest, but also, the support. This is just an example. SB2 from Jones, the low carbon fuel standard regulations, and what this bill is designed to do would repeal recent updates enacted by CARB, the California Air Resource Board, to the low carbon fuel standard regulation. The bill will save Californians from an impending 65 to 85 cent per gallon increase at the pump. So things like that is what we're keeping track of and supporting and trying to reduce the cost of living for our residents. And with this bill passes, the residents of California. So just want to let everybody realize that, and I'll end it there. And, God bless everybody, and thank you for your time. And I'll turn it back over to you, Chair.
Thank you. Anybody else like to share? Yes. Supervisor Gardia, and we'll come back to Supervisor Ding.
So it's been a busy last couple of weeks since our last board meeting. I want to thank the team that worked on with the CNA contract, because that would have cost our county, if they would have went on a 3-day strike, would have cost us a lot of money. And so I commend the team on coming up with a resolution with a fair contract. Had the opportunity to go out with SJ Cares, probation, Stockton PD, the sheriffs, and we were working on a camp over off of Country Club on the on-ramp, which I believe that Caltrans is going this week to clean up. But one of the things that I didn't know about when I went out there, that Caltrans had been working on the I-5 corridor underneath the Smith Canal to damages to the bridge from our homeless population burning underneath that bridge. And this has happened in multiple spots in our county where we're in a position that infrastructure could be damaged, which would cause some major issues to our main thoroughfares. And, could you imagine I-5 at the Smith Canal being shut down, what kind of issues that would cause? So I believe that the pressure from this board and the city of Stockton and other city jurisdictions that's putting on Caltrans right now, I think our message is finally being heard. Obviously, it's slow moving, but the need to have the accessibility to these Caltrans areas that we create an MOU that allows us to do our job to make sure that, the people that are in these unhoused areas and the people that are on our highways that are protecting these individuals. So it's a work in progress, nothing comes easy, but I believe we're heading the right direction. Also, Saturday was the Kennedy Community Cleanup Day. It was really good to be out there. It was a beautiful day. Code enforcement did a great job. There was a lot of people utilizing our community cleanups, which in my opinion, that curbs the illegal dumping. So that was a positive. It was also Arbor Day. Went out to Victory Park and we planted some trees, and I actually learned some stuff about planting trees, which was really good. I actually got to go out there and what I like to be, in a pair of boots and some jeans and some work clothes, and get out there and dig some holes and provide a great service to our community. Went to American Legion for their steak night. They're super excited about the extra money that they're going to be able to have to finish their facility. And then was great to be part of Ag Day in Lodi to help sponsor kids that wouldn't have the opportunity to see farm animals in our farming community, to get out there. And I felt very fortunate to participate with Ding on that. That was a great event. I wish I could have made it out there, but I had other commitments. But I just want to say that very impressed in my 2 months being in this position, the commitment of our county and what we're trying to do to make our community better and the team up here. But I appreciate you guys, and thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Ding?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, it is good to be home. It always feels good to be home. We had a busy 5 days in DC. Obviously, you heard earlier, we did pass the resolution, and it will be included in the national platform dealing with, and it's very important to us with the Be Well campus. So the way it works with NACO, we can add issues to the agenda, but you can't exchange existing policy until July. So I'll be doing that in July. But for now, you're not allowed to build more than one facility on a piece of property, contiguous property. So with our Be Well campus, we have the 16-bed cap. We wouldn't be allowed to build more than one. Under the resolution, we'll build multiple pods of beds that passed through the health subcommittee, and then it went through the entire body nationally unanimously. So we felt good about that. We met with Senator Padilla the next morning. The senator will be drafting language that pretty much mirrors the language that we passed through NACO. So we've got a good anchor and sponsor. We had meetings on the Golden Mussel back there as well. We had meetings on the duty reachbacks on the wine industry from shipping wine into New Zealand. And I think we got some good traction there. So it was a good week. Again, I really can't reiterate how valuable Genevieve Valentine was in this process. It's so nice to have, especially, when you're in that academic setting, and you're meeting with the staff directors, the Senate and the House, and that's all they do. 24/7, they're on that one issue, and that's all they think about. So having somebody like Genevieve back there, it was phenomenal. So thank you.
You need to jump in line again, or what? So,
Just real quick, I forgot. End of February, we had Almond Blossom Festival. I want to say kudos to the chamber. And the best part of the parade is Scott and my chief of staff were cruising in our car. And lo and behold, I see Sandy waving, jumping in the street, so very energetic, so it's awesome to see our CAO out there in the community. That was it. I want to embarrass her a little bit.
Since you're talking about, we need to congratulate too.
Oh, on the engagement of her daughter, so is that, sorry, Sonny, we'll get to you, right?
Congratulations.
But yes, congratulations on your daughter's engagements, very, family first, right?
Yes, very exciting. So thank you. I appreciate the board allowing me to be gone for one day. But
One day.
thank you.
We were all bugging you that day, though, weren't we? No. Congratulations on your daughter's engagement, so. I asked her if he was as nice as I was, so then, you know what I mean? Anyway, thank you for what you do. Vice Chair Dollywell.
Thank you, sir. Sandy, once again, congratulations to you and your family. On the committee reports, Eastern San Joaquin Groundwater Authority, they are looking for an executive director. And they will be also going through a website redesign that will allow greater transparency and easy access to the public. LAFCO looking at a study for rural San Joaquin County fire districts and see what's working and what is not as far as the consolidation are concerned. Water Advisory Commission presentations on building back habitats and water sustainability were discussed. SJCOG, there was a discussion with the lobbyist on one voice trip to DC in May. General updates, we held our first town hall meeting in French Camp, which included recognizing the French Camp McKinley Fire District for their partnership and participation combating the devastating fires in Southern California. Attended Thomas Toy Community Center in Manteca, which aims to provide teens with a place to go. Visited San Joaquin General Hospital along with Chairman Canepa, and I'm so glad that they have the much needed equipment to save lives. Attended Stockton Police Department promotion ceremony. That was a very nice event. Yesterday, I attended a meeting with Genevieve to meet with Senator McInerney, seeking his help to pursue funding at the state level for the B-Well project. And proud to be part of this board. Want to thank all our employees, department heads. Thank you so much for everything you guys do to make our county better.
And the medical school, they were being a proponent. Do you want to speak to that?
Yes, we had visitors yesterday to have a discussion with Chairman Canepa, seeking his support for a possible medical school in our region in the future.
Yes, and that's huge
I think that
because.
will be a great addition.
Yes, because Rick Castro, obviously, the dead space that we have at the county hospital and repurposing it, and if we can get a medical school and fast track it, it brings just a ton of money into the community. Then we can locally grow, and after they said the residual of it, of all the other support services for health services also could be coming to that school. So it was a great way to get it going, and their enthusiasm to come to San Joaquin County and the partnerships that they're building is amazing. So I told them, and however I can do it through the health plan of San Joaquin and possibly getting some money and getting that off the ground and using space that the county has that's just sitting out there, I think is an absolute home run. So I think that's a positive thing. So
And they sound very confident.
yes. So thank you for your update. So that's always the thing, is what we do in the community and how we do it. We obviously go to a lot of events, and sometimes I don't want to bore you because we're supposed to actually do community involvement, but I think building the partnerships in our community is what makes San Joaquin County great. I don't know who else went, but we had Rotary read in the other last week, and that's great to go out in the communities and be able to read to kids and leave them a book. Also, the Stockton Police Department badge pinning and promotion ceremony. We need to stand together as communities, and I think that's important that we support law enforcement, and a lot of us were there to support them. So look forward to the sheriffs and correctional officers. If they ever need us to show up to pinnings, please invite us as a board, and we will be there. The other thing is the San Joaquin Partnership, trying to be more involved with that because we need to bring businesses here. You know, we can't run government without new folks coming and supporting jobs and property taxes and taxes in our community, I think, which is vital. I also went, Supervisor Ding, the Farm Bureau, it's hard because getting people involved, and you know that, getting the youth involved is important. And I went to the one in Lodi, and they were down 200 members. And I mean, that's our bread and butter for our local economy. And if we don't get the youth involved and they're able to hand off the baton, we get this huge agribusiness that takes over, and we lose mom and pops and the folks that he's trying to fight for with the wine grape juice that's being imported. And I think it's important that we stand together and stand tall. We've been working on 5 Mile Slough to try to do an assessment with the city and the county. Because it's one of those jurisdictional rodeos, so we're trying to do a Prop 218 to get the people who most are able to enjoy the creek, possibly to get some care in the long term because it's been neglected. A lot of people don't understand the city and the county both pump into it, and it's hard to find anybody that's willing to take care of it. Shout out to the parks, fishing derby, they plant the trout. A lot of folks were out there on a beautiful sunny day, and some beautiful fish that were planted got caught. It's always a pleasure to go out there to be a part of that. The other part, we did some about the new tower and the study. I think it's huge, the amount of money that we've spent on the airport, the $26 million, and now with the FAA, the Vista assessment to try to get a new tower and fund those things, because those things aren't cheap. But I think we have that hidden jewel out there called the San Joaquin County Airport that needs to be developed. The other thing, as community health leadership, we did blue zones, and we started the kickoff in Lodi. That is it's the 5 most lived places in the world, and then they come in and help collaborate so that you can change your health scores. And when you change your health scores, the benefits, not only the communities, the hospitals, behavioral health, all get fixed. And we all do a great job doing what we do, but we never really collaborate it. So I was hoping it would be in South Stockton, but Adventist and Lodi helped fund it to bring it. So the Blue Zones did the presentation and the kickoff there. Had a meeting with Mary Graham Hall to help foster youth and figure out how, we can get them scholarships instead of when they get out of being 18 years old, instead of just, getting rid of them, have some better places for them to go and learn. Chamber trade show, lots of things. DA appreciation, the staff across the street. I will sure be glad when we are able to rip that building down and put them in their new digs, because that thing is in bad shape. And just like our morgue, it's in bad shape. And I'm glad to see that those folks will have a new, and they're in 2 different, sorry, there was a little dig I had to give ding there. So we also did media training, and luckily I had my daughter's dog for Arbor Tree, so Mario got to dig the hole while I watched for Arbor Day. He did an amazing job, and we planted some trees, and there's a great sense of community in planting trees. Chinese New Year parade, and one of the highlights of my day yesterday is we did the 175th SEAL art contest, and it was absolutely amazing because the person that drew that and the words that she shared, she did it at juvenile hall. And so I'll get emotional. We were able to go and present her a certificate along with Assembly Member Rhodesia Ransom's office and Senator McNerney's office. And it was so cool because she was just so nervous, and her friends were up there. And it's like, hey, you know what I mean? You shouldn't let this one thing judge how you're judged in your life. So we went out there, Chief Jackson and staff, they do an amazing job. The art teacher, just amazing programs that you wouldn't think exist, and they do exist in our county. So also the medical school, I think, is a boon, and I think if we can get that, and everything takes money, unfortunately, so we need to work on that. And we have a new parks director, and I'm not going to massacre her name, so if you could help me on her name, Ashika.
I believe it's Ashika.
Yes.
Ashika Lal.
Yes. So welcome aboard. The parks in our county, are amazing places for people to go, and we need to celebrate those and make them better. So welcome aboard, and I will stop with that, and I'm sure everyone's happy, and I will adjourn our meeting to closed session. Do we have something to report out of closed session, or am I gabbling?
No, I'm not anticipating anything to report out, so you can close the meeting.
Okay, and we're going to adjourn to March 25th at 9 a.m., and I'll adjourn the meeting for today. Thank you very much. That was pretty quick. That was pretty quick, right?